Hello, Facebook, YouTube, and X. I'm Power 5 meteorologist Katie McGraw, and on the eve before the 4th of July, America 250, we are unfortunately talking about the heat and humidity continuing, but also now showers and thunderstorms starting to push into our viewing area. We even have a couple that have developed out ahead of that main line. So one strong storm, for example, around Geauga County, and it's trying to push into Trumbull. And then there's a severe thunderstorm warning into western Pennsylvania. This line of showers and storms, though, is clearly what we have the most interest in at this time, and it's developed pretty quickly here. So first things first, if you are in the Northeast Ohio area and you have questions about the rest of this evening primarily, because I'll be honest with you, tomorrow we still have a chance for showers and thunderstorms, but it's very much a touch and go, wait and see type of forecast. So we'll talk about the 4th of July, especially as we can hopefully see these storms dying down as they move into our viewing area. So we cover a huge portion of Ohio from Cleveland all the way down to New Philadelphia and Tuscarawas County. I know that there's viewers in Coshocton as well. And then out to the west, once we get to Erie County, and that's where we have one severe thunderstorm warning issued right now. So that's where we're going to start our forecast here. And in fact, I do want to show you just really quick how rough it's looking out in Put-in Bay. So out in the western waterfront here. Yikes. There's some scary looking clouds out there. It is certainly very windy. It's hard to tell what kind of clouds we have ongoing out there, but it looks like it could be a shelf cloud potentially. There are certainly some strong thunderstorms, severe thunderstorm warnings as well, as you do have, just ferocious winds, the threat for 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. And so that's what it looks like right now. It's not great over in the islands right now. And those storms are then going to be trying to push. I think that they're going to be weakening, but they're going to be trying to push across more of Northeast Ohio as we get into the next. It's 7:15, probably between 9 and 10, they'll start to fade. So let's zoom in and look at the radar right now at these thunderstorms, because there's certainly some features on the clouds there. I think it's all scud, but scud is basically a cloud that it almost looks like it's trying to make a funnel cloud, but it's hard to tell without being there. A lot of times the difference between scud, that's first off, it's a harmless cloud and it's just almost like cloud debris, versus a funnel where it's rotating. So right now the island's getting hit really hard and moving into Bayview, Sandusky, frequent lightning. We've got 29 lightning strikes, and this particular warning is in effect until 7:30. So another 15 minutes as it moves into that north and western corner of Erie County. It also is coming with some heavy rain and of course the gusty wind concerns as well. So let's looking across here. Just gonna just do a little analysis for just 1 second. Yeah, that's not lining up quite right. So it looks like there's just what I'm looking for here is, first off, of course, you see that there are these spikes of these brighter greens. That's showing us where we have some of those stronger winds, why there is a severe thunderstorm warning issued. There's also, I'm always going to be keeping a close eye on if there's anything rotating. So we have a great parameter that we use here a lot on News 5 with our radar that shows us our rotation detector. So when you're seeing these areas in green, for example, like right here from Booktown to Bayview, that just basically shows that it's a strong storm and we have to watch it. As it continues to go up in these colors, the reds, or even if you start to see the yellows showing up, that's not ideal. That's when you have a better threat for a tornado. So right now it's basically just what it needs to be issued as from the National Weather Service, and that's that it's a severe thunderstorm warning. And they have this particular warning for 60-mile-an-hour winds and some small hail. It's moving, let's see how fast it's moving. It's moving fairly fast at 45 miles per hour. So we'll put the reflectivity back on and we can try to track this bad boy out. Let's go from, it's a weird shape, but it is moving east at 45. So yeah, I mean, that's taking us right to the end of the warning. I mean, it's timed perfectly here. So it's going to exit basically this part of the warning as it moves through Erie County in the next 15 minutes. So Sandusky at 7:22. So you have less than 10 minutes until those storms are, you're probably already hearing some of the lightning. And maybe if you're on the western side of Sandusky, already seeing some of that heavier rain. Port Clinton, though, Catawba Island, all getting hit with some of those stronger storms. And then the problem here is that we also have this extending line here of potentially severe storms. So up to the north, this was the line that I was watching earlier today throughout the evening shows. That's all staying basically due north. And I mean, even the most southern extension of those storms that were moving through Michigan that had severe thunderstorm warnings issued or watches earlier today, most of that should miss us. If it was going to impact any of our communities, it would be our most northern sections of our communities up to the north and east, maybe like Ashtabula over into Erie, Pennsylvania. In the meantime, though, if I put a loop on here, oh, thank you, Joseph. And I also have my, not to get distracted, I have my 4th of July earrings on that my mom bought me. So in the last hour here, this line of storms has developed pretty nicely. I mean, when we were in the 6 o'clock news, here was 6:15, and there was barely anything. There were just a couple of showers and thunderstorms. So you did start to see some additional development pretty fast here. And not only did they develop fast, but then they became severe too. So you noticed by 6:50, you had the one severe thunderstorm warning. And now basically this entire line of showers and storms that's pushing into western Ohio is now warned with severe thunderstorm warnings. So the one in Findlay, still outside of our viewing area here, it's in effect until 7:45. The general idea is that we are going to be seeing some weakening with these showers and thunderstorms, but not yet, right? They're getting stronger, not weaker for the time being. So that's why I wanted to pop onto Facebook Live, because even though the worst of these storms at this moment, just outside of the Power 5 viewing area, I want you to know that I'm watching them moving into Erie County, then eventually into Huron County, and impacting Seneca County right now, Sandusky as well, and Ottawa, the southern sections of Ottawa County, basically all of Sandusky County, and then also for Seneca. Rain would be nice. I totally agree, Planet Watcher. We need some rain. It's been so hot. We just don't want the severe weather, right? It would be great if we could just get some nice rainfall, but the threat for severe damaging winds is the main risk here. As always, we're always going to be watching for anything rotating, spinning, anything like that. And out ahead of it, there are a couple of just random little downpours. So we've got this guy over Ashland, no lightning yet, but some heavier rain. This storm that's moving basically outside of our viewing area at this point, it's just over Portage County from Parkman to Nelson, but within the next 10 minutes, it's going to be into Trumbull and Mahoning County. So impacting southern Geauga, northern Portage, a really tiny section of both of those counties, but some heavy rain, thankfully no lightning there. Let's see another little downpour here. And it's trying to slide just between Randolph and Rootstown. Again, no lightning, but seeing that there is some heavier rain being detected there. What else we got? What else? Not much. So this is that main line. I don't think the heat advisory should be needed. So tomorrow, so we've had the extreme heat warnings in effect for the last few days, and that's due to the heat and humidity. Heat index values were over 105 degrees. So even in Cleveland today, we hit 106. Now tomorrow is still going to be hot, just not as hot. We will likely have heat index values still maybe even the low triple digits, upper 90s. So there is some talk about a heat advisory being issued. I'm not 100% sure. I've been focused on the storms. So I'm not 100% sure if the National Weather Service has issued I don't think they have yet, because I think they're focused on the storms too. But they had mentioned earlier today that they would likely issue a heat advisory for Saturday, especially with it being the 4th of July. So lots of people out and about, lots of people maybe drinking that don't normally drink, things like that. So just making sure that the precautions are being taken. Just scrolling through and seeing some of their comments. There is something called a mesoscale discussion. It's essentially something that the Storm Prediction Center, the National Weather Service, they put out as like a pre-watch. So you have your watches that's saying we could have severe weather. Then you have your warnings that it's happening or imminent, like what's happening for Erie County. The MCD is basically a pre-watch, and they're saying that there's a 40% chance that a watch is going to be issued for our neck of the woods from basically Cleveland and points to the west. That's kind of, at this point, you know, we're already getting the severe weather, but something worth noting. Your friend lives in Dayton. Will he be okay? So the storms look to be passing just north of Dayton. I don't think that there's much else. Let me switch over to the, yeah, there's not much in Dayton, honestly. It's all us. It's basically from Lima to Sandusky at this point. So that's that line of showers and thunderstorms. Even points in Toledo, it kind of got gapped. I think that in the last hour there were a couple of showers and storms, but yeah, I mean, Toledo was basically missed in this whole section of storms that developed. It's just wild how fast that line, there was barely anything an hour ago, and now we have this decent line of showers and storms. I do hope that it weakens, because as much as somebody mentioned that we need the rain, that, you know, I don't want it, you never want damage to happen. Is Brunswick's fireworks in danger tonight? So I'm assuming that fireworks, they're usually like 9:45, 10 o'clock. So we have a lot of time. That's the good thing. These storms are moving 45, 50 miles per hour, and they are expected to weaken. I would say there's certainly a chance that these storms could impact any events, especially in the next. I think that because fireworks happen so late, that there's a chance that these storms will be much weaker, so hopefully they won't have that punch anymore, or if they hold together and they're moving quickly enough that they're out of here before those thunderstorms move through, because that would probably be the more likely threat or the more likely scenario, that these push through in the next 2-3 hours, and then as they continue to push to the east, they're weakening at that point. Let me just look really quick. Well, there's nothing really to see, because the storms are, unfortunately, they're strengthening at this moment. So I would say that it's a little bit of a touch and go situation. I can show you what the future radar looks like, because unfortunately, this is what I've been saying since yesterday. I hate these kind of forecasts, because all meteorologists will tell you that they, you know, want to be correct on the forecast. And some days it's just a little bit harder than others to totally predict exactly what's going to happen here. So even this current computer model, it's not picking up on the trends quite right. It has the general idea that there was this line of showers and storms out to the west, but it's not holding it together quite right. If this ends up being the scenario, notice that it is bringing in the threat for some showers and thunderstorms between about 9 and 10 near the Brunswick area at that time, but they'll be weakening shortly after that. So long-winded answer that I'm not 100% sure. I wish I could give you a slam dunk answer. I think that it's right in the cusp. The more east you live, especially from areas like around Portage County, Akron, I think that the storms should be weakening before they make it to you, but there's still that possibility of seeing even some development out ahead of the main line of showers and thunderstorms. It is a little bit of a we have to wait and see with this line of storms. It is touch and go, Connie, yes. It unfortunately is a little touch and go. At this moment, we're seeing a strengthening, not a weakening. I would love to see that change as they continue to push into our viewing area. But for the time being, even since the last time I went away from the lightning strikes, that's always one way that you can tell if a storm is weakening or strengthening, and that's the lightning. So even just in the last 15 minutes, let's scroll back. Yeah, so 363 lightning strikes. Now we're up to over 500. So there's also a risk now. These storms are moving kind of to the north and east, so we're pulling out from the National Weather Service here that there's a marine warning issued, and that extends all the way through Cuyahoga County until 8:45. So that also gives you kind of that idea of where we are expecting these storms to go in the course of the next hour and a half or so. Again, would love to see them weaken, but at this moment, that's not the scenario. It is a little too soon to know again about Worcester, so there is something worth noting. As I mentioned, that there's this threat for development out ahead of the main line. So right near Worcester right now, you've got a couple of showers, even one downpour trying to move into Wayne County. So don't want to discredit that there could still be impacts out ahead of it. Now, the the main area of storms that would impact Wayne County is way out here. So that is the one good thing on your side, is that it's going to take a lot longer to get to Worcester than these storms are for Erie County, for Lorain County. So that's where they'll probably hold together here a little bit better. I think that there's certainly a chance that we'll see these storms in Cleveland, Ohio, but just like all of the other locations from Brunswick to Cleveland to Wayne County, Worcester, it is a little bit of a touch and go and kind of waiting to see what these storms, but they have been, I mean, we've got a line of severe storms at this point. So I would say that we are more likely to continue to see this line holding together, at least to bring some showers and thunderstorms. And they would probably be moving, so we're sitting at about 7:30. So they're probably going to slowly push through our area. Even though they're moving fast, when you put them into motion here, you can see at 30 minutes. Let's go 30 minutes out. So there is still that easterly progression, but there is a slight northerly push too, so it can take a little bit of time to completely cross. More east you live, I think that there's a better chance for these storms to die down before they get to you. But in the meantime, I think that these storms, I'm going to go with the negative option that these storms are going to try to hold together here as they continue to push to at least our western communities. So right now, already impacting Erie County. We can zoom in into Erie County. Let's see what the winds are doing. So I'm going to put it on pause. I'm going to take the lightning off. I'm just bummed out, you know. I was really hopeful because it was a touch and go forecast. I was hopeful that we wouldn't see too many thunderstorms, because the beginning of the week, there was this chance here and there, and they never really developed throughout last weekend too. So I was kind of hoping that same energy would keep up, but unfortunately that's just not the case. So we definitely have some strong winds here. We'll pick a few spots. So a lot of times when you're really far from the radar site, it can either make them a little bit weaker, a little bit stronger. So I would say that most of these storms are probably sub-severe, to be honest. They're probably bringing more like 50-mile-an-hour winds, but still packing a huge punch, because there's clearly some strong winds here, but also the heavy rain. Well, we're also watching areas like this where you see some strengthening happening right around Fremont. Fremont, shout out to you, 108 degrees was your heat index earlier this evening. That is just, I mean, so hot. And yeah, there is right around there, there's this little area around Fremont where you're seeing the reds and the greens trying to do something silly, a little dance around each other. It's not super strong rotation at all. Something worth watching though. What's it looking like on reflectivity? Yeah, it's definitely something worth watching. If you have friends in Fremont, that will keep an eye on that risk for maybe a little something. There's some hail. Okay, it's looking way better. It kind of dropped down pretty fast there. That's great. Love to see it. Yeah, that's okay now. So more so just those straight line winds. So for 1 second, the radar had me a little concerned, but I think that we're good there. But there is just a little bit of some strengthening there near the Fremont area. And then out across the water, that's not uncommon, where you actually see, just because the lake has a mind of its own too, that the storms can sometimes actually pick up in strength as they get over the lake. And there is certainly, you're seeing that as they pull away from Huron and Sandusky, that area in green and yellow here. So it's actually getting a little bit stronger as it pulls out into Lake Erie. But keep in mind for any boaters out there, if you know anyone that's out there. Hail is getting bigger. Where are you at, Christine? And she's back, yeah? Okay, let me make sure that we are back on. The internet crashed for just a second. Let me just know if you still can hear me and where you can still see me. I was laughing. Okay, good. Thank you, Maxwell. I was laughing at this comment about Rex Kramer, secret agent, asking about Detroit. So Detroit, you still have a severe thunderstorm warning or watch until 10 p.m. But in terms of the storms, most of the severe stuff is kind of missing you. You're getting some heavy rain there. And we do have now a new warning being issued until 8:30. So for another hour here, look at how weird that shape is. But I get why they made it that shape because of the way that the storms are moving. So we do have, here, let me put this off. I agree with you. As a Clevelander, born and raised, well, a suburb of Cleveland, I agree with you that Cleveland is the best. Cedar Point, yes, I believe that. And there, we had a camera shot that I pulled up before that, so Christine was mentioning that there's some hail out there. Let me pull up the one camera shot and see how it looks. So it still looks obviously very ominous out in Put in Bay here, but before it actually looked a little bit spookier, but there's still clearly some very strong winds. And then Christine's mentioning that there's some hail around Cedar Point, and that totally tracks because there has been just, if we look at this, it's called the Barron Button, just around, as I mentioned, there's that section of the storm that's getting a little bit stronger. Thankfully, it's actually pushing off of land and into the water. Not great for anyone that's out on the water, but that's where you have a stronger section of some hail showing up here. And I mean, it is very close to Cedar Point. You're crossing over Cedar Point, basically. So the worst of the storm is pulling away from Cedar Point, Christina, but you're right along Cedar Point Road, and then all of the storms there. I wish I could, you know what, maybe I'll just step off the screen for just a second, and you'll hear me still talking. I'm just going to go and switch a camera down in a separate studio so that I can just see what's happening at Cedar Point and see if you can actually pick up the hail that's falling there. So just give me 1 second. It is a little bit of a hike between our two studios here. And I just saw as I walked into the next room that you are seeing the white go away and you're seeing a larger area in black. That's actually a good thing. When you look up at the legend, the purples, the pinks, then it goes black, then it goes white. So there was a larger area of white, so it's actually getting smaller hail. So that's good news. All right, let's get these Cedar Point cameras up. Where is it? Oh, it does not look great. Okay, I'm coming back. Yeah, actually, I can pull it up here. This is what Cedar Point looks like right now. Yikes. Not good looking at Cedar Point, and that's because of all of that heavy rain and hail that's showing up. Gusty winds too. Not an ideal situation when you're kind of just like a sitting duck at Cedar Point. Of course, there's always those gift shops and things that people can take cover for. And this is true for anyone across Northeast Ohio as these storms unfortunately strengthen as they're moving into our viewing area. We just have to be aware that this is what it's bringing here. So this is a camera shot that just a little bit ago looked pretty decent at Cedar Point, but these storms are really packing a punch here. All right, let me catch up here. Okay, is it going to rain tomorrow in Cleveland? Yes, I think that there's a chance for us to see some storms, but just like today, it is a little bit of a touch and go. And I am so sorry. I hate to say that because I wish that I could say it's going to be dry the entire day, but or if it's going to storm, we're going to see it at this time, at this place. It's just not that kind of forecast. So how today develops dictates tomorrow, and that dictates Sunday. So even looking at the future radar for this evening, it's struggling with the ongoing convection that we have. And it's just a tough scenario when data is struggling, but we have so much heat, we have so much instability. There is still enough wind energy too, hence why, and we're starting to break down that ridge of high pressure that has kept us dry over the last several days. So if you're just joining our live here, got a couple hundred people here watching. I do appreciate you. There is now a severe thunderstorm warning issued for northern Lorain County. It also includes now all of Erie County. It was included, Erie County, the most north and western section, had a warning issued a little bit ago. Now the entire county as these storms push through, and then northern and western Huron counties. Meanwhile, we have this little storm can't even really call it a storm. There's no lightning on it at this moment. Let's see. Actually, I have my lightning turned off before I say that. Oh, yeah, lying. So there are a couple of lightning strikes, but these are pulling away from our viewing area into Trumbull and Mahoning County. Got a couple of downpours in the southern section of Portage County, moving from Summit into Portage. And then Wayne County, you have now a couple of thunderstorms near Cedar Valley, Blatchyville. Sometimes I don't know if these are true towns. Sometimes they pick up, they can be from old maps and or like apartment complexes sometimes. I just have never heard of that town. So let me know if you know anyone that lives there. And then, so they're kind of just all around Worcester. So you have one downpour that's just to the north of Worcester, and then another one near Lake Fork, Springville, and that one does not have any lightning, but certainly some heavy rain. But the bigger concern is that this entire line of showers and storms is getting stronger, not weaker. So this line of storms is going to try to hold together as it moves into our viewing area, but it could take some time to completely cross. Thankfully then, as we get toward sunset, we still have some time though until sunset, an hour and a half until sunset. So that means that as these storms push through the area, they should be weakening, because once we have the sun go down, even though it's still going to be hot, it's still going to be humid even after the sun goes down, we lose a little bit of that fuel, a little bit of that instability. And I am going to check just real quick if the National Weather Service is saying anything about confirmed wind gusts or anything. So hold on 1 second, I'm just going to check their chat here. Yeah, they don't have anything about reports. Just that basically the same type of warning is being issued. So the threat for some small hail is possible, more so like pea-size hail, and then also the 60-mile-an-hour winds. And all of these storms are moving kind of to the northeast at 30 to 45 miles per hour, depending on which part of the storm we're looking at here. Tons of lightning too, so make sure that you're getting into your safe spot, because any storm is dangerous when it's lightning outside. So you've got some new comments here. I'm always so amazed when people say this. Okay, then don't watch, Patrick. I don't know what to tell you. I like turtles. Classic YouTube comment. You're so welcome, Albert. I know DirecTV and ABC have been in this dispute for so many weeks. This is one of the longest, after over a decade in TV, the longest that I've seen one of these disputes go on for. I wish I had more answers for you, but I hope that we can get us back on there soon. So these storms are moving at about 30 miles per hour right now. So that's why and you see how weird shaped this warning is? That's because it's moving to the north and east. So it does have an easterly progression, but it's not just a due east movement. So it's going to hit Lorain County and that northern section of Lorain County well before it hits the southern section of Lorain County. So it really does matter knowing where you live within your county. So basically points north of Elyria, that's where you have a better chance to see these thunderstorms within the next hour. Farther to the south, it could be a little bit longer. And this is, again, I see a lot of people asking questions about specific cities, and it's the same spiel essentially again and again, that I have to just kind of wait and see. So these storms are holding together. You've got a couple of downpours out ahead of the main line. I am hopeful that they'll eventually start to weaken, but at this point that is not the case. They're getting stronger. So I have to go with the pessimistic view that these could hold together all the way to Cleveland and areas to the west. So probably until 9, maybe 10 o'clock, we could see these storms holding together, which is just like, it's just not ideal. I was really hoping that today, because it was a little touch and go with the forecast, I wasn't completely convinced, and I said this on air, I said it to my newsroom, that I was hopeful that maybe we wouldn't see severe weather or even a ton of rain, and that is, if this line holds together, it will pack a punch, because it's not just that we could have the threat for damage, but it also has some really heavy rains. If we look at the rain rates here, I'll turn off the lightning too, because sometimes when there's so much lightning, you can't see anything. So the areas in pink, that's when you're exceeding 3 inches of rain per hour. So, I mean, that's why it looks so nasty around the islands and into Cedar Point. And there was even some hail showing up before as well. Thankfully, that has come down and it's pulling away from Cedar Point. It's out into the water now, but still some hail falling out of that storm. Not as much hail elsewhere. So that's good. That is the worst of the hail that crossed over Cedar Point. And Christine was mentioning that in the comments here, that there was quite a bit of hail falling, and it was actually getting larger when she was commenting. So that was a period of time. If I just roll back 15 minutes here, you can see the difference. So it got pretty bad, I mean, right on top of Cedar Point. And then pushed off as it was pulling away from Cedar Point, it had that area of white, and now it is weakening, so that's good. Oh, I wish, Joseph, I think he's a little too little. I don't want to scare him, so I would love to, but he's only 7 months old. I would, we'll play it by ear, but I think he might be a little too little, and, I just pay the price if I keep him up too late. So probably more than anything, I'm probably going to try to get him down to bed at a normal hour tomorrow, which is usually before fireworks, unfortunately. My question is, what point of north central Ohio does warnings come out of Detroit and not the Cleveland office? So I believe, let me pull this up really quick. I know that the National Weather Service in Cleveland covers Toledo. And I believe then where we currently have, for example, these warnings, I think that that's the areas that cover Detroit. But I can pull it up really quick because I know the areas. So, for example, I know in our viewing area that Coshocton, New Philadelphia, and Carrollton, they're with the Pittsburgh office. And then the rest of our communities are from Cleveland. So that makes it pretty easy because I've worked in markets where there's several different offices all around you. But there is a thing online that I can look up of exactly where the National Weather Service for Cleveland versus Detroit takes over. Hold on. We got a new mouse here, but it still is kind of tricky. National Weather Service. So I need this to be bigger. My eyes are not good enough for that. So yes, so when it comes to the National Weather Service in Cleveland, they cover Ottawa, Sandusky, Seneca, and then they cover Lucas. And actually, it's not Detroit that covers this section. It's actually the office that covers northern Indiana. So oddly enough, so this section of these warnings and here, so that's actually the office of IWX. Detroit is all into Michigan. So these warnings. So this one for Lenawee, and then also for Monroe, Michigan. So, and then Cleveland covers Lucas County as well. So it's an interesting little section right in here. So that's why I had to recheck, because I knew that it was, for what the National Weather Service in Cleveland covers for the Power 5 viewing area, but because I really truly have tunnel vision when it comes to forecasting and what I pay attention to, and it's so much of just Northeast Ohio and not so much of Michigan. Oh, thank you, Jamie. I'm so happy that you are watching. I appreciate you. So is it going to hit Cleveland? So as I mentioned before, if we're going to see the rain in Cleveland, it's really dependent on how these storms hold together. Right now, they are certainly holding together. This severe thunderstorm warning is until 8:30 p.m., so that's another 45 minutes. That means that for Cleveland, it would be after 8:30 p.m. because they're timing it out really well at the National Weather Service with these warnings here. And so I would say if we're going to get it in Cleveland, and it is a little bit of an if, it's kind of a touch and go and watching these storms develop. It's a true babysitting that I'm watching this radar tonight. And so it would be probably from 8:30 to 9:30. So that's true down then from areas right around from Strongsville to Cleveland, probably in that section. Now, for Akron, Greene, Canton, not exactly the same scenario. I do think that you have a better chance to see these storms putter out before they get there, but we have to keep an eye on this more southern flank of the storms. And the hail isn't looking overly impressive, which is good. Let's check winds here. Let's see if we're seeing any improvements. No, not really. They're all still showing up. You see those spikes of greens. So that's where you can have the threat for 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. And they're crossing right now, I mean, the worst of these storms right on top of Erie County. So that's, and out across the lake, truly, that's why we have a marine warning issued. So it goes all the way from Avon to Willowick. And there's even the strongest winds are out across the lake, but there's still there's decent winds here. And then the heavy rain threat, extreme, I saw somebody asking about an extreme rainfall rate. That would be over 5 inches, I'd say. I don't know if there's a definition that TV meteorologists use for extreme, but in terms of our legend here, so if you're looking at the legend, you see that there's this area in green, that's a moderate rainfall. Then this area in pink is heavy, and then that light pink, almost white, that's where you have the extreme rainfall. So I don't ever really like to hit the little, because it's always a little bit embellished. So this is showing over 5 inches of rain right now. It's not usually quite that. And we just got a radar update here, and that actually looked like a good improvement in the rainfall, at least the rainfall rates. Let's check lightning too. Our first decrease in maybe a severe thunderstorm weakening. Yeah, it definitely is right around Findlay. Let's zoom back. Yes, certainly. There was certainly some stronger winds, and as it's pushing in to the Findlay area, getting a little bit weaker, which is great news. Let's check. This is my favorite button to see. Yeah, this is all good news. I like what I'm seeing, that it is trying to actually weaken a little bit. There's still these little areas that we need to watch, but I'm not seeing as many. So if we take this back, this is what we're looking at. We're looking at something called shear rate. It's rotation detector is what we call it on here. So I'm not even really necessarily concerned about tornadoes in this scenario, but it still will show you where there's some really strong winds. So when we take it back to 7/16, you see that there's a couple of these areas from Fremont to Sandusky where you're seeing some stronger winds, and they actually intensified a little bit as they moved out across the lake. So for example, like right here, see how there was that stronger area of winds, and they continue out across the lake, but I'm having a pretty hard time. There's still a couple of them, but it's actually such a light green and they're so few and far between that it's actually hard to pick out. So there's a couple from just to the west of Norwalk, but it's not super impressive. And then moving into Lorain County, just to the south of Vermilion. So bottom line, this is an encouraging thing to see because it maybe is trying to weaken. It still has an impactful, it's still impactful, right? I mean, just when you're looking at the reflectivity alone, tons of heavy rain, and they did go ahead and reissue a new warning for Seneca County and right around that Findlay area. So I got too excited. Oh, here's more development too, out ahead of the main line. You've got a couple of downpours here from Worcester all the way up into the Akron and Greene area. So these are just developing on their own out ahead of the main line. If we put it into motion for the last 15 minutes, yeah, you're starting to see a couple more storms out ahead. See if they've got lightning. I tend to turn the lightning off just because sometimes when you have so much lightning, it can be difficult to see, but there are currently a couple of lightning strikes, definitely. And yeah, we're up to still hovering around that 500 number in terms of lightning strikes. Okay. It's still raining hard in Sandusky. I believe it. The worst of it is right over Sandusky. In terms of the severe threat, maybe not so much, but I mean, it's still pouring buckets of rain falling right now. And lightning too. So remember, when thunder roars, get indoors because there is that threat for any storm is dangerous when it comes to the lightning. What time is sunset? I believe it's 9:04 today. Now that's for Cleveland. It's going to vary slightly depending on where you live from west to east. But for Cleveland, I believe I didn't look at it today. I looked at it yesterday, and I think it's 9:04. Weather for Lorain. All right, so northern Lorain County, For Lorain, Amherst, Elyria, you were right on the edge. Avon Lake, you were all in a severe thunderstorm warning until 8:30 p.m. So there is just starting into the most western side of Lorain County, bringing in some rain here. So some thunderstorms, some stronger winds from South Amherst all the way up to Vermilion. You're just starting to see some of that heavier rain crossing over Erie County and then into northern Lorain. So why is it only northern Lorain County and not the southern section? It's just the way that these storms are moving. They've got a funky movement to them that they have. They're moving east for sure, but they're pulling slightly to the north and east. So what we'll have to watch for here in this warning for the next 40 minutes here for northern Lorain County, including Avon Lake, Lorain, and again, Elyria, you're kind of right on the edge here. Amherst, you're probably hearing some of the thunder, seeing those dark clouds out ahead of it, getting some heavy rain. There's going to be the threat for some hail, but also potentially some gusty winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour. And actually, I'm seeing on our radar a little bit of some hail trying to come up, but it's more so about that heavy rain potential. Some strong winds moving right over Amherst at this time. Nothing strong in terms of rotation, but we'll keep an eye on it. It's more about just the straight line winds here. So you have winds potentially that could cause some damage here. Amherst hit really hard a couple of weeks ago, and so now you're getting hit with another round of some heavy rain. The lightning's still a little bit out to the west here, but there's also some of those stronger winds. So that's the skinny on Lorain right now, and then Erie County is getting the thick of it at this moment, included in this warning until 8:30 p.m. Let's go back to reflectivity. So we're starting to get this little guy right here. This line, it's called an outflow. So once again, we're going to go back 15 minutes, and it's almost like a mini cold front. Now sometimes, this is just one of those days where I have to this is why meteorology is not a perfect science. Sometimes these outflows can kill storms, and sometimes they can redevelop them. Because it's only been 15 minutes since they really started to see it showing up here, we'll have to wait and see what it does. If it tries to kill the storms, or are we going to start to see some additional development out ahead of that main line along that mini little cold front known as an outflow boundary? Okay, sorry, I'm seeing a lot of people. Yes, outflow boundary. Are power outages likely in Cleveland? It's possible. There's always going to be that threat when you have the straight line winds of 60 miles per hour. And I know that that's not what we want to hear, because we were already having some power outages even before storms happened. And because of power grid issues, so many people using the resources to a really high degree because it's been so hot. So I can't rule it out, unfortunately, that there is a possibility that if these storms hold together, which is a little bit of a question mark if these storms are going to hold together or not, but so far they're trying to. It's very much a touch and go, and I don't want to leave out our friends, even though they're not severe here. We got some heavy rain. You got a couple little train going on here from Worcester up through Barberton, Randolph, and there's a couple thunderstorms within there, but most of it is just some heavy rain. A couple thunderstorms out into Pennsylvania, and then Trumbull County, just over Cortland, Ohio. The worst of the storm, truthfully, is out in the water. That's good. It's pulling away. Let's keep that going, right? No rotation in Sandusky. Let's just make sure. When the last time I looked, I didn't see anything super impressive. No, it's just strong winds. But it is showing us that there's a threat for a little bit of some hail to the east of Sandusky, moving from Erie County into Lorain County. So again, Amherst areas in the western side of Lorain County starting to get the worst of the storms, pushing towards you. The hail threat, we've gotten reports from Christine. She was in Cedar Point talking about the hail. The hail was worse near Cedar Point than what we're seeing right now. But you could maybe see some real small hail here. But then the heavy rain, the lightning, and the gusty winds, that's our main concerns here tonight. And that little section of some stronger winds that was near Amherst has actually come down quite a bit. So that's great news. The strongest winds now that we're seeing is just to the west here around, it's in, let me get my bearings here. It's pulling into eastern Erie County just to the north of Florence. That's where we currently have the strongest winds. A couple of strong winds here in the southern half of Lorain County. Let me look at the reflectivity here. Oh, so that's your outflow here. So you're actually getting some gusty winds associated with the outflow. Do you think rain will hold off until the Guardians game is over? What time, will you just tell me real quick, Stephen, what time the Guardians started their game today? Was it a 7:10 or was it a 6:10? Because that'll make a difference, I think. Weather for Lorain. So right now, northern sections of Lorain County included in this severe thunderstorm warning until 8:30, so another half hour here. The southern section of Lorain County not included yet, but we do still have additional storms out here. What we're watching is this little guy, this outflow. I'm hoping that it tries to kill these storms and we don't see new development ahead of it, or basically along this tiny little line here. Because I've seen both scenarios. When I worked in Louisville, we saw, weather is always going to be intriguing to me, but outflows are always interesting. Because sometimes also after these storms, so this is what I'm talking about when we're thinking about how the way that tonight's develop then will dictate tomorrow's, because a lot of times what happens, these storms move through and then we get past sunset and they kind of fade. But it's really just because we lose some of that daytime energy and heat. And there's still these little boundaries that are left behind, just like this guy. And so then when you get into tomorrow, if they're still hanging around, that's when they can fire off and redevelop showers and storms. So even when you're not really seeing much on the radar, they're kind of there, just hanging out and waiting for the right moment to start to pop here. And we did have something called a cap over our heads, and a cap can prevent thunderstorm development. It was starting to fall off and erode, and it's basically a warm air aloft just above our heads. And you need warmth to get thunderstorms. It's kind of confusing. But then when you have this warm area just above our heads here, it can prevent thunderstorms from developing. So we had a pretty strong cap in place, but it started to deteriorate as we moved throughout this evening, hence why we're seeing this line of showers and thunderstorms. I'm going to pop on the lightning real quick just to see. I'm doing like a little bit of wish casting that I really want these storms to weaken. And it does look like the lightning has come down a smidge. Well, not really. It's kind of hovering right around 460. But before it was more like 500, 600, but definitely around 500. So it hasn't changed much, but a slight decrease. Again, I'm wish casting a little bit. It's always good to get rain. I'm always pro rain, not pro severe storms. Well, thank you, Logan. That is so nice of you. Yes. Bye. We don't need that kind of energy here. There was a little lightning in Sandusky, Kelly. So I believe that for sure. We have seen quite a bit of lightning in the Sandusky area. Depending on where you live in the Sandusky region, there were some spots like where we were talking about Cedar Point getting hit really hard with some hail, and there's so much lightning now. I mean, if you're in the Lorain area, majority of those lightning strikes are out across the water. So that's good for people on land. Of course, anyone out on boats, not necessarily an ideal thing. And there is, because it is boating season, it's so hot here, marine warning in effect until 8:45 as well, and that extends all the way basically to Willowick, so all the way to about Lake County. So that's just due to the fact that these storms are pushing through and there's still some of that heavy rain, still has some of that gusty winds. The winds are still holding together though. You know, I'm not, these are, I would argue, kind of cusp, probably 50, 60 mile per hour winds. Let me see if the National Weather Service has said anything about, because sometimes even folks that don't work for the National Weather Service, they'll chime in and say, you know, at this location, emergency managers and stuff, they'll chime in and say that we got a gust of this much at this location, and that helps tell us what we're actually seeing. So, okay, so that's Hancock County. So it's 7:39, so it was about 20 minutes ago, one of the meteorologists at the National Weather Service, she's obviously watching the same line of storms. They've received some wind damage reports, mainly in the form of downed trees and power lines. Some isolated pop-up thunderstorms east of I-71 remain capable of producing gusty winds and frequent lightning. So nothing else that I'm seeing here. There is some trees down in Huron County. So they're producing enough there's enough wind here that it's producing some trees getting knocked down, as well as seeing some power outages, which is just not what we want in the middle of a heat wave. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Logan's back. Thank you, Jolene. I appreciate all of you joining us here, because this is the whole reason that we do these streamings, is so that, first off, we let our friends know that we're always watching the radar. Even before we did streaming, I would just be sitting in the Weather Center watching these storms slowly progress and make sure that they're not getting too strong. But also, it's not a bad enough scenario that we would do cut-ins. So hence, when you get tornado warnings, sometimes if the hail's bad enough, we'll cut in. If the winds are showing 70, 80 mile an hour winds, we'll cut in. But these kind of storms where they are producing some damage, we just want everyone to be aware of it, especially as we're going into a holiday weekend. I just noticed that this almost looks like a foam finger, this warning here, and it's moving through now northern Lorain. Erie County is getting it, and then the northern section of Huron County, you are also seeing some of those thunderstorms, some heavy rain too. The strongest part of the storms here moving through Vermilion and Lorain at this moment, particularly with that heavy rain. Let's check that rain rate. Seeing anywhere from maybe, now this is per hour, so keep that in mind when I use the little pixel here to show you. So 3-4 inches an hour. But you're not going to see this heavy rain for an hour, but it can drop buckets of rainfall for a brief period of time. These storms are moving anywhere from about 30 to 40 miles per hour. They are moving east, but they do have a slight northerly push, and the strongest part of the storms are going out across the lake, which is good for a lot of people on land. But boaters are usually, they don't really usually need us. They're usually very aware of the forecast and the threats associated with them. But if you have maybe a friend who just got a boat a couple weeks ago or something, let them know that there is that threat out there. Any real cool down? Yeah, absolutely. So tomorrow, I think heat advisory will be issued, because we have the extreme heat warning in effect. Actually, it just ended. It ended at 8 o'clock tonight. So I think that because they are preoccupied with the storms as well, I do not think that they have issued a new warning or a new advisory yet. But I got distracted as I was talking about the advisories, because now we do have a severe thunderstorm warning for Cleveland for until 9 p.m. So this includes, is it the entire county? It sure is. So all of Cuyahoga County included in this severe thunderstorm warning. It is in effect for the next hour. So these storms are moving. They have decent progression, but because they have that slight northeasterly push, that's why it's going to be until this next hour here. So that's the unfortunate part, that this storm is expected to hold together as it moves to the east, now impacting where a lot of people live. I've gotten a couple of questions here from Parma to Strongsville. You are now included in the severe thunderstorm warning until 9 o'clock. And the main threat with all of these storms, well, there's multiple threats, but the main threat, once again, is going to be the risk of 60-mile-an-hour winds as these storms continue to push from Lorain County into Cleveland. and then points to the east of Cleveland. So right now, you're not seeing any storms in Cleveland, but they're just to the west of you, pushing towards Westlake, for example. These thunderstorms are going to be bringing that heavy rain and that threat for some gusty winds, or we're getting some reports of damage happening already, trees being knocked down, as well as some power outages too. Okay, Cuyahoga Falls. So for Cuyahoga Falls, so there's a couple of thunderstorms just to the south of you, but for you, you're going to have to wait a while. Because of the way that these storms are moving, where you have this northeasterly progression, so the more north you live, essentially, the sooner you're going to see thunderstorms, is the general idea here. So we have, even now, for example, northern Lorain County getting hit at this moment. You get south of Elyria down to Oberlin, you're just starting to see those storms. So it's just going to take a little bit longer. The more north you live, and that's true even in Cuyahoga County. So Cleveland's probably going to see some rain here. Let's see, I would say probably within, it's already moving into Westlake, so probably in the next 10, 15 minutes, Cleveland's going to start to get some of that rain. But North Royalton and Brunswick, you probably have a little bit more time, probably more like a half hour, maybe 40 minutes at max for you to bring in that rain. And we can track it out for you here. Let me just check something real quick. All these storms have been moving at about 30 miles per hour, but there's different sections that are moving slightly different. So hold on one second. Oh, my stomach just growled. So this one's now moving at 45, so picking up a pace a little bit. Hold on one second. I'm going to just step off the screen for just 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. I was just taking a sip of water here. And so we do have, I lost my train of thought. These storms are moving at 45 miles per hour. So let's track them out for you real quick. And in case you're just joining us because you got the push alert that there is this severe thunderstorm warning, I'm Power 5 meteorologist Katie McGraw. We're keeping an eye on this line of showers and thunderstorms that is moving, that's bringing the threat for some damaging winds of about 60 miles per hour. And they are going to continue to move and probably hold together at this point into Cuyahoga County over the course of the next hour here, the next 50 minutes. So Independence, you are probably going to be getting these in the next half hour or so. But let's track them out for everybody. Because northern Lorain County, basically if you live north of Oberlin, you're getting hit with some of these showers and thunderstorms. Avon Lake, Westlake, all seeing that heavy rain, frequent lightning, some gusty winds too. We can check wind speeds. So right around the lake here is where you're seeing the strongest. Basically just from the near shore waters, and if you live right along the immediate lakeshore, some of the strongest winds showing up there. And there is even it's showing up as a little bit of some hail. If you're getting hail around Amherst, Lorain, Avon Lake, that's where we're seeing that there's at least a possibility of maybe some pea-size hail. So we're going to go like this and track these storms out. It's a rough guess, right? It's a rough track. But this shows us that we're going to be seeing storms pushing into Lakewood at about 8:15. Olmsted Falls, 8:23, Brook Park, 8:26. So again, depending on where you live, if you live a little bit farther north, you're likely going to see these storms first. Even if you are due south of Cleveland, Cleveland will probably see the storms before you do. But within the next 50 minutes here, Cuyahoga County is going to be hit with some of these stronger storms. There is a little gap, which is ideal. Let me do a little rocking with the radar. So rocking basically is when we can take the radar back in time to see how the storms are progressing. So we're going to first look, get out of here. So 15 minutes ago, 429 lightning strikes, 437. So that really hasn't changed very much. And then the southern section of Huron County, you are going to get some rain here from Norwalk to Willard, but the worst of the winds staying farther to the north. They're favoring our lakeshore communities. Then we also have out ahead of the main line, Barberton, Greene, continuing over into Lexington, Deerfield. That's where you have just rogue showers and thunderstorms that are kind of developing out ahead of that main line. And then there's some additional thunderstorms out in Pennsylvania. And these are really these are the storms. This is the show here as we move into probably 9, 10 o'clock, and then these should be tapering off, but it's been a tricky forecast, unfortunately. Okay, thank you for the report, Micah. The wind with that little storm that went through Worcester was really bad. Hail, bad winds. We have trees down. Wow. Okay, let's look at the winds here as they move through Worcester. Well, yeah, it doesn't look overly impressive, unfortunately, on the radar, but I believe you. So a little report here, that ground truth of what we are experiencing down in Wayne County, and that's where those storms now have continued towards Akron and Greene, where you're getting some of that heavy rain and lightning too. And then now into our most western communities around Westlake, Avon Lake, Lorraine, Amherst, Whiskeyville, all seeing these torrential downpours and those strong winds too, exceeding 60 miles per hour and causing some damage here. The strongest winds just across the lake, but impacting Sheffield Lake, for example. This is where we're seeing potentially over 60 mile an hour winds from Avon Lake to Sheffield Lake through Lorraine. That's where we're maybe trying to creep towards 60, 70 mile an hour winds. So the scenario that I didn't want to happen is happening, where we're actually seeing the storms pick up a little bit in intensity versus decreasing. In terms of rotation, I'm not overly concerned with rotation, but there are certainly some strong winds here. I'm always going to be continuing to monitor any threat for the rotation, but it's more so just straight line winds, which can still cause a lot of damage. Light mist here, nothing bad in Westlake. Okay. I would give it a couple minutes. It looks like it's moving through West Dover at this time. And if we were to grab the winds here, so yeah, showing up in this little section, this area in blue, from Avon Lake to Lorraine, that's where we're seeing the strongest winds at this time. And they're over 60 mile an hour winds. This is where your threat for damage goes up even a little bit more. Before they were looking more like 50 to 60 mile an hour winds, but also as we get closer to the radar site, which that's this big hole right here. That's your radar at Hopkins. It usually does a better job at giving you accurate numbers, because essentially when you have your radar site, it's just pushing out these beams like this. And the farther away you go, the higher the angle is. So sometimes what you're getting back can be a little bit skewed in terms of numbers. But notice already that it has come down as these storms continue to push to the east. So you're seeing more like 40 mile an hour winds, but there's still those very strong winds creeping towards Avon Lake and right over Sheffield Lake. So Sheffield Lake is seeing the worst. If you have any friends or family, or if you're watching near Sheffield Lake, let me know what you're seeing there. Just got very windy in Rocky River. I believe it, because the strong winds are knocking on your door here. So moving into western Cuyahoga County, and that's where you're having this risk for 60 and even 60 plus mile an hour winds that we're showing up on the radar here. Some frequent lightning too. The worst of the storm is pretty much over in Erie County. It's still raining, clearly. You're still getting some hefty rainfall, but the lightning's starting to go down, and we're not seeing as strong of winds. So it's more just about now that heavy rain threat. Let's see how much rain has fallen. these areas in green. So just over anywhere from about 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch roughly. So should be okay to handle that amount of water, but we need these showers to end here. So it does look like the worst of the storms are done through Erie County. Now it's all about Lorraine, from Sheffield, Avon Lake, Westlake, Rocky River. You're all starting to pick up some of those stronger winds right now. Let's scoot it back just a couple of minutes. I mean, look at how wild the radar looks. So you have the strong winds from Avon and Avon Lake, and then in just from 7:59 to the last 15 minutes, and how you're bringing in all of those strong winds at this time toward Rocky River, Westlake, North Olmsted. So it does seem as though the northern half of Cuyahoga County going to get hit a little bit harder in comparison to the southern half, even though the entire viewing area is included in the severe thunderstorm warning until 9 p.m. for the entire county of Cuyahoga. That does look like the strongest winds, at least at this time, extend from basically Elyria, North Olmsted, up to Avon Lake, and that includes Lorraine, Westlake, Rocky River, all seeing now some very strong winds. Sheffield, yes, that is where we had some very strong winds just a couple of minutes ago. It actually looks better than it did in Sheffield Lake, but it was showing up on our radar here for Sheffield, more so for Sheffield Lake versus Sheffield, but that's, if I take it back just a couple of minutes, it was showing up that area in blue from Lorraine to Sheffield Lake, so exceeding 60-mile-an-hour winds there. But thankfully, we're seeing that actually decrease. Let me turn the lightning off because it's right in the way for Avon. So not as intense. That's really good news. Still have some strong winds here, but likely not as strong as they were trying to be for between Sheffield and Sheffield Lake, just about within the last 15 minutes. Hartfield just got issued a heat advisory. Let me check Slack real quick, the National Weather Service, because they were talking about issuing a heat advisory for tomorrow because the, I can hear the winds picking up in Cleveland. I'm in a concrete building and I can hear it. I haven't seen anything yet about a heat advisory, but I think we're going to get one for the 4th of July. Okay. When do the storms stop? So it's a little bit of a wait and see here. They're bringing these strong winds here, but the general idea is they continue to push to the east. They should weaken. So far, they're holding together quite nicely. Yeah, I can hear the winds picking up. Oh, yeah. It's going to try to rain right over downtown Cleveland here, moving into Bay Village, Westlake, and I know that there was a lot of events ongoing. So we got Bay Days. We just had meteorologist Alan Nosif out. I'm not sure if he was Avon or Avon Lake. I think it was Avon Lake. He was at an event there today. So many festivals, so many events for the 4th of July, of course. So it is just, I was really, really hopeful that we weren't going to have to deal with the severe storms, but here we are, unfortunately. And it's not just the threat. Of course, we're concerned about the damage here, but these are impactful no matter what because of the lightning and also the heavy rain. We have almost 1,000 people on our stream, and I so appreciate everyone watching here, especially because now this is impacting so many folks across Cuyahoga County, and we've done stories here on News 5 about people losing power, and we have had reports, unfortunately, that these storms have been strong enough to the west that they've been knocking down some trees, that they have been causing power outages. So this is not ideal when we're in the middle of a heat wave for people to be losing power. But this time, we do have that threat for the 60-mile-an-hour winds to be the biggest issue at this moment, because I'm not seeing a lot of rotation, so that's good news. I did see a comment in the National Weather Service chat that somebody saw a funnel cloud. I haven't seen super strong rotation here at all. It's more, what I am noticing is just this bright area in green. That's showing where you have that risk for those stronger winds as they move in from Lorain County and now into Cuyahoga County. Let's flip back over to reflectivity. So again, noticing how the more north that you live, so including Cleveland, you're going to get rain here in just a second if you're not already. Westlake, you're seeing rain already. But you live down in Independence, you still have some more time until these storms get here because of the way that these storms are oriented, that they do have that diagonal moving from the northeast down to the southwest. So that's where it's just going to take a little bit longer the more south you live for you to get these storms moving through. And I know that there is a couple of questions, I think it was Brunswick that somebody asked about for their thunderstorms, for their, what's the word that I'm looking for? Their fireworks. So there's certainly a potential for impact, unfortunately, as we bring in these storms here. But I still am hopeful that they'll continue to try to weaken thanks to this guy. He got this outflow right here. But that, even as that little guy moves through, when you're not even seeing any rain, so it's moving through Medina County right now, from Strongsville all the way down through about West Salem, you're probably still feeling the winds pick up a little bit because it almost acts like its own little boundary, a boundary like a cold front. It doesn't have a huge temperature difference, but it can kick up the winds before you start to see the thunderstorms. Thank you, Jolene. Oh, we got a comment. Our canopy in Avon flew up over our ranch house and into the neighbors. Oh my gosh, Emily, thank you for the comment here and the report. So was the canopy, was it attached to your house, or where was the canopy, I guess? And how strong would you assume the winds were? Probably more like that 60 to maybe 65 mile per hour winds. That's an area near Avon. That's where we were seeing some of those stronger winds. It was just to the west of you near Sheffield Lake, but still some of the strongest winds I've seen so far. So it makes sense from, because it was a little bit north and west of you, but still some strong winds associated with that. And even now, there's still some strong winds. All of these areas, all of these spikes, and now those stronger winds are moving through Bay Village, Westlake, North Olmsted, and they're pushing now towards Parkview, Rockport, Fairview Park, Lakewood. You're all going to start to feel those winds increase here. And I did get a report before about Rocky River. Dark clouds over my house near Akron. So there are a couple of storms in the Akron area. Did you say in East Akron? So those are probably these that you're seeing right here. A little thunderstorm. It's much smaller than the main line, but we have seen a couple of downpours and a couple of thunderstorms that have flared up out ahead of the main line. But actually, just in the last 15 minutes, the organization of those has come down. So this is what it looked like about at 7:52, so about a half hour ago. So notice it was almost trying to make its own line here of thunderstorms, but now kind of falling apart a little bit. You still have a couple of downpours here from the Lions and near Green, but it's more so still these storms here. And we did get a trim. The severe threat is over now for Huron and also Erie. Huron kind of got gapped a little bit. Erie County got hit pretty hard with the strong winds, and then northern Lorain County has been hit pretty hard. Now, that's not to say you're not seeing any storms or probably some gusty winds in southern Lorain County, but you're not included in the severe thunderstorm warning. That's all moving through Cuyahoga County at this moment. And I know my coworkers were trying to grill out for this evening to celebrate the 4th of July America 250. Hopefully they were watching. Yes? Oh, and I just heard from my director, Trevor, shout out to him. Somebody did ask about the Guardians game. They are now under a rain delay. Not a huge surprise. Trevor, do you know what time that game started today? 7:10. So, and it's some heavy rain too. I'm not totally surprised that they had to put it onto a rain delay. And there's some lightning too, of course. Got about 100 lightning strikes within the severe thunderstorm warning. Lorain County, I would say the worst of the storms is past, but you're still getting frequent lightning. You're certainly still getting some of that heavy rain. And it's true, just more north that you live, it's getting hit a little bit harder here. Not overly concerned. Before I say it, let me just check. Nah, we're not seeing too much in terms of rotation, but there's certainly some really strong winds. And they're winds that have been causing damage, tree damage, as well as power outages. And in the middle of a heat wave, we don't want that. Nice line of showers and storms. So still seeing the worst of the winds here from Westlake. And then unfortunately, you do get this hole right here because that's where your radar is. So sometimes we actually lose vision for just a second of what the storm's doing until it comes out on the other side. We run so many stories about Lakewood and the power issues there. So I apologize for laughing, but I know that that's a problem in Lakewood, that their power is lost a lot here. Just saw pool rafts flying here in Parma Heights. I believe that anything not tethered down, anything really light, is certainly at risk for ending up in the neighbor's yard. Trash bins, if you still have them out or anything, they could be knocked over. Those lightweight things. The bigger concern is going to be those trees, healthy trees, things like that. And of course, again, the power outages. Bubbling up in Akron. So yeah, just to the south of you, you're seeing, and so this line right here, I mentioned it before, from Medina, that's our outflow. There's no rain yet. Well, there's just behind in Lodi, but you're starting to feel winds probably from Brunswick through Lodi pick up. That's because we have a little outflow there, but the worst of the storms right into downtown Cleveland. Guardians have a rain delay because of this heavy rain that's moving through, and probably because of lightning too. The rain's enough, but also that there's that threat for lightning. 91 lightning strikes at this time. I mean, it is pouring. I'm still going to talk for just a second. I just want to poke my head outside and let you guys hear it too. I'm sure it sounds like it's pouring right outside of our station here. And we're in downtown Cleveland, a little bit to the east of downtown. But I'm walking away. I'm still on, but let me just see real quick how bad the rain is. Doesn't look like it's actually, ooh. Just starting to rain. Clouds are moving fast. It's very ominous. Okay, so it's just arriving in downtown Cleveland. And everybody in Cuyahoga County, I'm just walking away for a second, I'm coming back on screen, but everybody in Cuyahoga County included in the severe thunderstorm warning until 9 p.m. So we have another half hour for these storms. It's going to hit Cleveland before it hits Independence and areas to the south, a little bit away from the lakeshore, and that's just because of the progression of these storms. So actually you can see that I have a couple of raindrops on my dress here, just because the rain started to come down just outside of News 5 studios here. And then it continues. As I mentioned, the worst of the storms are weakening for Lorraine. It's all Cuyahoga County's problem now. Getting dark in Paynesville. So, yeah, probably. So what we have here, these thunderstorms that are out across the lake. Let me see their movement. It looks like they're probably going to try to head towards you. Yeah. So now Lake County, you're not included in a severe thunderstorm warning, but you're going to have to watch these storms that are coming off of the lake here. So you know what? One of my friends, I told her I would tell her, because they're having their festivities tonight, if I told her I'd be watching the storms here. Oh, you know what? And I have missed so many text messages. Let's see, the Power 5 weather team is blowing up here. Oh, lots of cool cloud pictures. Alan got a good photo here of the clouds. I don't know if you'll be able to actually see, but it's a good looking photo of likely a shelf cloud trying to push through. Okay, let's see, re-rack here. So this is good news that this whole section of the thunderstorms kind of falling apart. Again, we had that little outflow that's out ahead that's moving through Medina right now. And there's still certainly some thunderstorms, but not seeing the severe threat, which is really good news. Still haven't received much rain in North Ridgeville. So yes, that is, I kind of got distracted as I was talking about it. So the more north that you live as a rule, you're going to see the rain first. because of the progression of the way that these showers are moving. So you're already seeing them now from East Cleveland to Euclid, but you go just south of Euclid, like points in Solon, it's going to take a while for Solon to get this rain just because you're a little bit more to the south here. So from Westlake, you got rain a little bit ago. Now we're starting to fill that in. From North Olmsted, Berea, you're probably going to get these showers within the next 5 minutes max, probably. We can track out the storms again here. So let's go from Cleveland through Westlake, and they're moving at about 45 miles an hour. So here's a rough guide. Use this definitely as a gauge, but we're already starting to see the rain here in Cleveland. So always, again, that rough guide that it's basically already raining. Strongsville, you have less than 5 minutes, we'll say. Parma Heights, more like 5-10 minutes. Seven Hills, 8:44. University Heights, 8:44. North Royalton, was that the comment? North Ridgeville. North Royalton is 8:45. Shaker Heights is about 8:45 as well. So you have a little bit of time if you live in the more southeastern corner of Cuyahoga County for you to, if you want to protect your vehicle, if you want to get your party inside, anything like that, you have a little bit of time. But these showers and thunderstorms are moving right now from Fairport Harbor, Menor. You're all going to start to see these thunderstorms pushing towards you now too. Holding together, I'm not overly concerned about the widespread damage. We have had reports of some trees getting knocked down. We have had some power outages getting reported as well. But even some new good news, you see that this southern flank of this storm has also been removed from the severe weather. So let's zoom in on just this storm, because there are certainly other thunderstorms. I don't want to diminish ever when there's thunderstorms ongoing. These are still going to pack a punch here. You still could probably get some stronger winds here, a brief period of time where the winds pick up, you get the heavy rain, you also see some frequent lightning. But in terms of the potential for damage, that's all in Cuyahoga County at this time. Strongest winds continue to show up right around the Westlake area. Calming down in Lorraine, which is good. Not overly concerned about rotation again. And then there have been some reports of hail, most notably, there's so many comments, but there was some hail that was reported here and there. And actually I saw the weather team, I couldn't keep up with their entire group chat. I apologize to Trent, Allen, and Phil, but I saw the word grapple thrown in there. So I don't know what they were saying, but first lightning strike. So yeah, they're just having a little bit of a discussion here about what they think is going to be happening. All right, let's see. West 117th, strong winds gusting, 100%. The strongest winds are right in that area at this time. Just to the west of Cleveland, we're seeing. And even, so I'm just to the east of Cleveland. We're around East 30th. And the winds were already starting to pick up when I poked my head out there about 5 minutes ago. And the rain was just starting as well. And I saw a lightning flash. So it's all happening, basically. And that includes now Parma. You're probably starting to pick up wind speeds as well. We do have another. Sorry, I'm just talking and thinking out loud here. No matter what, we just want everyone, and the reason that I'm streaming here is because we have this severe thunderstorm warning in effect for another half hour. I am encouraged that it's not getting stronger. It does look to be weakening, actually. But there's still some severe thunderstorm warnings being issued. So now you have the southern side of Huron. It's a real small section right around Willard. The worst of that, though, is out here. So you're getting some of those thunderstorms around Willard, but it's more so like Crawford. Couple thunderstorms out ahead. Let's check the winds of these storms here. Yeah, that's not super strong. Do you guys see the difference here when we're talking about the winds? And they just actually went downstream here, a huge box. So this is not a severe thunderstorm warning. This is called a special weather statement. Essentially, it's a strong storm. wind speeds more like 40 to 50 miles an hour. So you're starting to see some of those stronger winds here from Mansfield through Ashland, straight up through Medina and Strongsville. And that goes until, I mean, it goes pretty far out to the east here. I mean, almost the edge of our viewing area until 9:15. So they're expecting these storms to be moving a bit faster, but you're going to have not as strong of winds as what we had to our north. But you'll likely start to see some of these additional thunderstorms that are just, they're a little bit messy, right? They're kind of more spotty. You have one thunderstorm here, one there. But what I'm encouraged with what I'm seeing. The lightning strikes are coming down. That general idea that we were going to be seeing a weakening trend of these showers and thunderstorms. The bad part, even if they're weakening, is that they're impacting plans for folks celebrating, getting the 4th of July holiday off, and now these storms are pushing through right as as the sun is trying to set, and that's when you want to do fireworks. Unfortunately, we're going to be dealing with these thunderstorms. I was so hopeful that it wouldn't be widespread thunderstorms. This is unfortunately the scenario that we're dealing with, that we're bringing in this broken line of showers and thunderstorms, and they are weakening, but they're still impactful. So that's where we have that really strong, or really big box, I should say, of a strong thunderstorm that includes several communities from Medina through Worcester, Akron, Canton, Brewster, all included in that strong thunderstorm. And then we have the severe thunderstorm warning in effect for another 25 minutes. And we'll see how the winds continue to progress as they push towards Geauga and Lake County. Lake County, you're already starting to see some of these thunderstorms moving now from Euclid. Gates Mills seeing some of those showers and thunderstorms. Wickliffe, Willoughby are probably right on you at this time. Yeah, if you're at Willoughby, you look like you're still dry. Wickliffe, the heavy rain's pulling in. And you're all going to see some of that rain, unfortunately. I know some people want to see the rain. I know that. I'm talking, unfortunately, for any events that you have. Oh, no. Pam, Parma, power out. We have gotten some reports of power outages, and it's strong enough winds that it's a possibility that we were going to see more, and so now power is out in Parma. Hopefully we're able to get this back on in the middle of a heat wave. Tomorrow likely going to be slightly cooler, not as hot, but it's still really hot. Heat advisories will likely be needed for the 4th of July, where you have heat index values around the upper 90s to the low triple digits, so 5, 10 degrees cooler than what it was today, which is an improvement when you think about 60 to 70 degrees. I mean, it is still going to be hot, but it is an improvement, not as hot. So it's just not ideal to be losing power when we're in the middle of a heat wave too. Flashing, but not out yet. That's good. Winds picking up in Painesville. I believe it. You're getting hit basically with 2 different storms. You have the one that was already developed that was coming from the Cleveland area, and then you have another little cluster of storms. That's probably actually what's making it dark in Painesville as these come off the lake. And then you have the other batch of storms. So Lake County, you're about to get hit in 2 different directions here, from the north and also from the west. Oh, okay. Southern Stark County has a heat advisory until tomorrow at 8 p.m. Thank you for that. It's pouring now at my station. Let's see. I must have missed it because I've heard a lot of people mention the heat advisory. So I've been preoccupied with the storms. I knew that they had mentioned it earlier today. Yep, there it is. So it includes our entire viewing area with the exception of down into Tuscarawas, Carroll, and Coshocton. You still have the extreme heat warning, so even hotter farther down to the south. Just curious, because I kept looking, and it must have just gotten lost in all of the other information that they were posting. So it probably was issued right at 8. They went ahead and issued that new advisory. So essentially, it's just a downgrade from what we've had over the last few days, because again, not as hot. So I appreciate that. I'm going to take this off though, just because there's, I just want to be able to focus on the storms right now. Oh no, one of my coworkers just said that his power is out and he is hot, and I believe that, and he's in the Willoughby area. So power outages are becoming a problem. I'm actually going to message my digital team and just let them know that we're getting a lot of reports of thunderstorms. It is, I don't know if you guys can hear that. I mean, pouring. I'll go poke my head back outside while I'm sending this message to my digital team. Just walk into the door here as the severe thunderstorm warning in effect for another 20 minutes for Kyle. Oh my gosh, it looks like inside of a car wash outside of News 5. Oh yeah, it is a gully washer. Ooh, ooh. Yeah, you can get soaked pretty fast in this rain. Okay, so from my digital staff, Mercy, she just said 18,000 without power, but that's for the entire state. So when I get back to the computer, I'm walking back right now, I'll check and see one of our system, our graphic system, they do a power outage map. So I can pull that up and see how we're doing with power outages. So the continuation, so basically these storms are weakening. National Weather Service is in agreement with me. And they're going, once again, strong storms as they continue to push to the east. So these are thankfully moving a little bit faster. This strong warning, or I should say, it's the threat for a strong storm for Lake County, Geauga, parts of Ashtabula. I said that's so weird. Parts of Ashtabula. The winds are coming down. Still impactful. Heavy rain, frequent lightning, and wind gusts still 30, 40 mile an hour winds. So the threat for damage goes down, but they're still packing a punch, unfortunately, that you're going to get that heavy rain threat. And my coworker that messaged me, he, I believe, is in the Willoughby area. And so even outside of that severe thunderstorm warning, getting some power outages here. What about Lorraine? Clarity, you are in the clear. You're still getting some rain, but in terms of the severe thunderstorm risk for northern Lorain County, the worst of the storms have passed you. I will have to monitor this storm that's down into Huron County. The southern section of Huron County from Norwalk to Willard has some stronger winds too. So if that holds together, it would be probably in the next half hour, because it's moving a little bit slower, but that's where southern Lorain County could potentially get hit with some of these stronger storms pushing through. These are such silly storms. They just look so bizarre to me. They're kind of have a mind of their own, and that's where we was talking about a wait and see as we move throughout this evening, because it's not a cold front that's pushing through. You have these little disturbances that are pushing through, and that's what's giving us this threat for showers and thunderstorms. But as the threat for thunderstorms goes up, the temperatures go down. And I am just encouraged, the National Weather Service in agreement here, that instead of seeing severe thunderstorm warnings being issued, that threat for heavy rain, frequent lightning is going to be the biggest issue, but you still could have wind gusts 30, 40 miles an hour. So that's going to be, again, we don't want damaging storms, but truthfully, I was hoping that we could, I was wish casting truthfully, that we could maybe stay dry for this evening. It just wasn't the case. And we unfortunately have the threat for more storms tomorrow too. Boo for the holiday weekend. The clouds are crazy. I agree, Sierra. We've gotten some really cool pictures so far of the clouds. Oh, I keep getting distracted. Let me check the graphic that shows our outages here across the area. So I had this camera shot pulled up when the storms were pushing through Cedar Point, and you couldn't see anything. So it looks way better in Sandusky. So these are the reports that we have so far of power outages. Obviously, it's not picking up because I know that one of my coworkers said he's without power and he's in the Willoughby area, and that's in Lake County. But roughly about 5,000 people without power in Cuyahoga, about 2,500 in Lorain, 1,000 between Ottawa, and then you also have 1,000 in Erie. 400 for Medina, 100 in Wayne. So we've got a couple thousand here in our viewing area. Let's see, so roughly about 10,000 or so, give or take, without power, which is just not ideal because it is still incredibly hot and humid out there. That's what it looks like in downtown Cleveland. So it's still 88 degrees in downtown. That's at the airport, Akron Canton 88, and you can clearly see where there's been some of the rain here. Lorraine at 72, but it's all about the dew points too. What's the dew got to do with it? Our dew points are still, oh, that was this morning actually. I mean, not much better, but not 77, but still, you're seeing dew points in the low and mid 70s. It is so soupy outside when you step out there. All right, let's check some comments here. Power outages in Medina. Why is it so windy in Seville? So Seville, you are getting a strong thunderstorm pushing through right now. So you're not in the severe thunderstorm warning. You're in this box, this special weather statement. I can look up the exact winds, but I'm sure that it's probably anywhere from 40 to 50 mile an hour winds. Okay, so Mercy's updating my numbers here for the power outages. She said over 8,000 in Cuyahoga, 2,000 for Lorraine. So slightly different from what my numbers were. I forget what I was going to do. I'm sorry. Call it mom brain. I don't know. I can't trust my brain some days. I literally would lose my head if it wasn't attached lately. Such a space cadet. I don't remember what I was doing. Did somebody ask me? Why is it so windy in Seville? So, oh, yes. Got it. I was checking Slack, the National Weather Service chat, to see usually when you're getting the strong storms being issued versus severe. First off, a severe thunderstorm warning is 58 mile per hour winds or greater, the risk for a tornado or 1-inch hail. All of these storms that have been severe today have been issued because of wind gusts that were over 60 miles, or about 60 miles per hour. But there were a period of time, the strongest winds I've seen so far were near Sheffield Lake. That's where it was probably over 60 miles an hour. But a lot of these strong storms, usually that's where you have that risk of some, first off, that heavy rain, but the gusty wind still causing an issue. So yeah, wind gusts up to 50 for both of these beige boxes. I like to put them on there, even though it's not severe. It does just help tell the story, right? That basically this entire line is going to continue to push through over the course of the next hour or so. So 9:15, 9:15, and they're picking up speed, which is good because we don't want the storms to last all night, right? So they're going to continue to weaken as they push to the east, but holding together at the same time, giving you that threat for some heavy rain and wind gusts 40 to 50 miles per hour. That's a great question, Brian. So the Guardians, I know, is on a rain delay. I'm hoping that because the general idea here is a weakening trend and that they are picking up speed a bit as they continue to push to the east, that hopefully, because normally we have about an hour. I feel like I haven't gone to fireworks in a few years, but usually it's 9:45, 10 o'clock. So I am hopeful that a lot of these storms can either try to fade or just get on out of here by that time. Here's the last 3 hours. So at 6 o'clock, they were all to the north and west, and they were moving kind of slow at first. When we first started our Facebook Live here, they were taking their grand old time to push through, but they are picking up speed a bit. And we are starting to see some additional development. Basically at this time, almost everyone across our viewing area expected to get thunderstorms. So you're seeing them now in Lake County, tons of lightning from Euclid to Menor, Willowick. That's where majority of our lightning strikes are showing up. Let's check the winds. Still have some strong winds right in this little section of Lake County from Kirtland through Willoughby. This is where you're seeing some of those stronger winds, and then they continue into Geauga County as well, but more so around that 50 mile per hour winds, maybe even a little over 50 mile per hour winds. It can still cause some random tree damage. It can still cause power outages, unfortunately, but I'm not seeing rotation. That's a bonus. So the threat for tornadoes is, it's always been pretty low, but as I always say, it's pretty much, it's never zero. So I'm encouraged to see that all we have is a wall of red here. There have been a couple reports of hail. Let's check hail here. Maybe getting some hail around Bishop and Minor Road between Richmond Heights and Mayfield. That's where we're seeing some of those larger hail spikes trying to develop. Bennett's Quarter, Hinckley also has another section. Not as much hail being detected elsewhere, down throughout Ashland, Medina. So more so, the strongest storms, well, I should say northern Medina has some hail. Southern Medina, not as much showing up here. Trying to creep towards Bath now, getting those stronger winds too. Everybody is going to be impacted for the next hour or so. I would say that we're going to get these storms pushing through, ruining plans. So unfortunate. And on top of it, we're getting reports of power outages and trees getting knocked down. Why is the rain so hard? So when it comes to seeing thunderstorms and convection in general and getting this really heavy rain, heat and humidity help fuel showers and thunderstorms. So all of that moisture, when you stepped outside earlier this afternoon and you could feel that dew point and you could feel the humidity in the air, I mean, it's just the atmosphere is just waiting for the right mechanism to move through. Like we have these little boundaries and stuff to push through that can fire off these showers and thunderstorms, and you have all of that moisture. So I mean, you're truly getting torrential downpours because of just that heat and humidity that's sitting in the atmosphere and now dropping out. And it's all like the water cycle when we were little kids, where you have the moisture hanging out and goes down as precipitation. There's a group of kids that I talked to in Lakewood, and they have a song. I need to remember it, but that's all how it works, basically. It's the root of meteorology is the water cycle. So we have a lot of moisture in the air, and now it's coming out of the clouds as rain. Will the rain stop tonight? So let's check the latest computer models. I'm going to be honest, data's been struggling, to put it in a PG word. So it has the general idea. That's more of how I've been using data, that the idea of what it's trying to show versus gospel truth. So you notice that in the next hour or so, these storms really start to fade. But you notice that right off the bat here, that this isn't exactly what the radar looks like at all. So, and it's initializing kind of poorly. I'll check a couple other ones. But the general idea here is within the next hour, these storms start to fade. Let's check another one. To change the... I don't know what's going on with that one. That is not picking up on any of the storms, so dead wrong. So this is the NAM. It's actually going to be defunct here in a couple of months. The general idea is that I would say within the next hour we'll see these storms taper off and try to fade here. New severe thunderstorm warning, boo. So we have a severe thunderstorm warning now for Richland and Ashland County, Wayne County as well. So this goes into effect now and it remains in effect until 9:30 p.m. The winds, once again, being your bigger issue. So we're seeing some stronger winds within this storm pushing through the right over I-71, basically. And that's where you're getting those wind gusts that could exceed 60 miles per hour. So it was issued at 8:51, 60-mile-an-hour winds. And it is moving southeast. The storms just have a mind of their own. Southeast at 30 miles an hour. So we'll track this line of storms out here. It's moving like this. So Perrysville, 9:05. What time is it? We're at 8:55. So about 10 minutes for you. It's already ongoing with these strong winds from Mansfield through Ashland. Got some hail right around Lucas, Charles Mill, yeah. And that's where we're seeing the largest area of some hail. Jeromesville, just to the north of you, showing up with some of those stronger hail cores as well. And then on top of it, you also have the heavy rain threat. Seeing some stronger indications of some larger hail near Doylestown and Barberton. And then as well as Lake County, right over Kirtland, basically. Got Kirtland-Chardon Road, and there's some heavier, or at least the signal of some larger hail. Let me know what you're seeing out there. I think that the worst of the storms is basically through Cuyahoga County. It is. Now it's all moving into Lake County, Geauga, Summit getting hit pretty hard. Worcester, and then in Wayne County. The severe storm, though, is issued in the southern half of the county here. So it goes from Richland County, from all of let me see, sorry, I need to get my bearings here. A big chunk of both Richland and Ashland counties. The most northern side of both of those counties, not necessarily included, but we have to watch this severe thunderstorm warning. It's such a mess. And these are bringing that threat for some stronger winds. Let me just check this little area. One thing to note is that not overly impressive with the winds here, but it's strong enough that you're getting that 60-mile-an-hour winds potential, and there's still some of that hail and the heavy rain too. It's the multi-threat. There is not a tornado warning. I am always going to be watching for the threat for some rotation here, but not seeing that the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning. It is just the severe thunderstorm warnings. I haven't been overly impressed with the rotation in general tonight, but that can always change. Just little areas sometimes. I'm always going to get my eye caught when you're doing little divots within the storms here where maybe the storm's trying to do something silly. So sorry, sometimes I'm just thinking out and not speaking out loud. Not a drop in Akron. You are getting gapped a little bit, but I think that you will get some rain. It's coming at you from the north and also the south in Akron, and you're inside a strong storm. So wind gusts of up to around 50 miles per hour, where we have had some of the damage being reported farther to the north. And I'm not surprised about this at all, that there is now a severe thunderstorm warning for Lake County, northern Geauga County, and into Ashtabula. And this is in effect until 9:45. So that's where you're seeing the increased potential for showers and thunderstorms to continue as we move into the next 45 minutes. So I think that the worst has passed through Cuyahoga County. Now our concern is stretching from Lake County and into Ashtabula County, northern Geauga, and then as well as our southern communities down to the south, where you have Ashland, Richland, and a section, a little sliver, almost looks like a beak or something, and that includes Worcester and portions of Wayne County. Pouring in Akron right now. I guess it really depends on where you're at in Akron, right? But it's coming at you. Even if you're dry right now, Cuyahoga Falls, you're bringing in rain just to the north and also the south. Really heavy rain near Barberton. I'm just going to take a sip of water. I'm going to step off the screen for just a second. Hail. There's some strong winds inside Summit County right now. from Stowe, Akron, Barberton, you're just seeing those areas that are a little bit easier to see, right? That some of the brighter colors we've seen throughout the course of today, I would say that I would argue maybe there's a reason to have I would throw the severe thunderstorm warning for Summit right in this section. Even though you're not included in a severe thunderstorm warning, for Hudson, Cuyahoga Falls, Akron, I think that the winds are strong enough right now as they're approaching you that you could have some damage, some power outages associated. You're still inside this box, this special weather statement, and that's where you have the risk for winds of 50 miles an hour, but I'm seeing an indicator that the winds are a little bit stronger there. Raining and the sky is purple. Linda, where are you at? Can confirm the heavy rain in Barberton, I believe it. It's pouring on the radar. And I mean, downtown Cleveland, you're starting to see improvements here. Let's pop on the lightning. So yeah, much lighter rain. Most of the lightning now is in the thick of the severe thunderstorm warning, moving from Painesville through Chardon. Men are getting hit the hardest at this time. And then it's going to continue to push for the next, I forget this, I think it's 9:30, 9:45, 9:45, as it continues to push through Ashtabula County as well. And then we have this warning too until 9:30. The only thing I can say is thankfully it looks like the storms are picking up speed a little bit. While the storms are out here, they're going to pack a punch. It's really unfortunate. I sound probably a little glum. I was just so hopeful that even if we did get some thunderstorms, that they wouldn't be super widespread. And this is one of those days where it was very much a wait and see kind of scenario. Because even when you zoom it back here, there was always the potential to see thunderstorms, but I wasn't convinced about coverage, about really how long they would continue, and they're exceeding. And again, sometimes maybe I was wish casting, hoping that maybe we wouldn't see as many storms, but I mean, we have a full line. Now, if we look at the entire viewing area, it extends from our most northern communities in Lake County through Ashtabula, continues down into Akron, and then Mansfield, Ashland County, all seeing this rain. Points to the west, the severe threat is down, but I mean, it's still raining. It's still pouring buckets for portions of Huron County, and it's still even a light rain shower in areas that got hit with rain several hours ago at this point. For Erie County and into northern Lorraine, you're still having a couple lightning strikes. You still have some of that heavy rain in pockets too. These storms are moving to the southeast for this severe thunderstorm warning in case you're just joining us. Let's track this line. Oops, I messed up the track. Hey. So, I mean, all of the National Weather Service warnings have been basically in complete agreement with my system as well, that it's going to clear Ashland and Richland counties by about 9:15 and 9:30, and then it's going to try to continue. Next on the docket then would be the second half of Wayne County down through Holmes, and Holmes hasn't seen anything, nor has Tuscarawas, Carroll counties. You haven't seen much yet. But we now have a decent line of showers and storms, strong and severe thunderstorms pushing through. As I speak, the worst of the storms from southern Richland, southern Ashland, and then from Lake County and into northern Geauga. Logan, I thought that you were let go here. Kent, the skies are black. So you're getting that thunderstorm that's pushing towards. It's in the strong section here. Oh gosh, the sky over the lake looks like the apocalypse coming. Let's see if we have any good camera feeds here. Oh, that looks so wild because, so this is from the Hilton camera. You can see Huntington Bank Field, the sun setting. There's the rain though that's ongoing. That's not even the heaviest of the rainfall. All of my cameras are set to more to the west. So Cedar Point's looking way better than it did a couple of hours ago. Here's another view of downtown. Doesn't look too bad. Well, feel free, honestly, there's let me get the graphic here. Any pictures that you have we would love to see them. And you can send them to weatherpics@wews.com. And you can also scan that QR code. This is more for TV purposes, but or feel free to just email me as well. My stomach's growling. All right, back to the radar. I'm going to check the National Weather Service, see if we've gotten any damage reports. Pop those on. So it looks like we've gotten some trees, reports of trees on a house on Summer Wind Drive. Time estimated via radar. So in the last 15 minutes, I'll just let my producer know. And we're also getting reports, numbers just leaped from Mercy, who works on our digital team at News 5, and she says now there's over 15,000 without power in Cuyahoga County, which is just not ideal. Summer wind. Statewide, the numbers have jumped for power outages up to about 40,000. So all packing a punch here. Large tree down, blocking Stone Road, which also fell on power lines. Just telling my newsroom here some of these damage reports. Okay. Medina at the end of it. Yes, you are. There's still a little bit of activity out here. So you're still getting some heavy rain from Willard to Norwalk moving through Huron County. But Huron's been one of the luckier ones. All right, so now the entire line is warned. So, I agree with this. I mentioned it before that I thought that there should be a warning issued for the Akron area. So now the entire section from north to south, our viewing area of this line of storms is severe. So we have severe thunderstorm warnings issued for Lake, Geauga, Ashtabula until 9:45 as these storms basically push due east. Tons of lightning, most of the lightning showing up there, wind gusts of about 60 miles per hour. Then we have this line of storms that has really come together. It's now impacting areas from Hudson straight through Akron, Barberton, Greene, North Canton, Canton. You are all included in the severe thunderstorm warning. And then, I mean, these are huge warnings that they're issuing, but it makes sense because essentially it's all the same risk. There's definitely areas within the line that you're going to have some of the stronger winds and some stronger damage here, but from all the way to the tippy top of our viewing area of Lake County, and these are now the east side and down to the south. So then you have another severe thunderstorm warning. I bet this is 9:45 too. It is. So these storms are going to be pushing through Portage County in the next half hour and pushing, I mean, the worst of it is hitting Akron and right now, and hitting Summit County at this moment. And then for Canton and Stark County, you have a little bit of time until those storms make it to you. And then you have a severe thunderstorm warning. This is now hitting Mansfield really hard, tons of lightning for you as well, Ashland, and then that continues just to around Worcester. So essentially, when we zoom out, you see that there's 3 separate warnings, but it's basically a bow echo that we have. A bow echo looks like an archer's bow. Let me stand on this side. So you have your archer's bow, and along that entire line of storms, that's where you have these strong winds, straight line winds, thankfully. There's not the risk for tornadoes, but you're bringing, and now as the sun is setting, it's probably going to be a light show for a lot of folks, particularly around Lake County, but also down in Richland County, Mansfield. I mean, it is a light show for you too. I mean, over 200 lightning strikes just within this one severe thunderstorm warning. And it's picking up too, actually, in northern Wayne County. Barberton's been getting hit pretty hard in the last half hour. Akron, I know somebody was saying that they're getting gapped. Gapped no more. You're getting hit with all of that heavy rain. Dark in Apple Creek, I believe it. It's moving over you right now. They did. We were talking about the outflow boundary that was setting up, and outflows can sometimes diminish storms, sometimes that they will refire up. So we can actually roll it back and take a look at that outflow, because it was right around Medina County, probably about 40 minutes ago. There it was. You still had the storms, right here. But it's now the entire thing, it really blew up right along that outflow. And that became that new severe thunderstorm warning. Bottom line, you're stuck with me now until about 10 p.m. That's when hopefully we're able to clear these storms. My concern now, as they have held together, that we'll also continue to see the risk then for Tuscarawas County, for Carroll County, Coshocton, Holmes. You haven't seen a drop of rain yet. There's even now this rogue severe thunderstorm warning out ahead of the main line. That's not our viewing area, but just to point it out here. Oh, what a bummer. So many events being impacted by these storms. But we are seeing improvements in Lorain County, in Cuyahoga County, particularly the western side of Cuyahoga County. Big improvements there. Worsening conditions. The worst of the storms pushing through Lake County and northern Geauga from Chardon to Painesville, and now Ashtabula, you're up next. While you might just be starting to see Geneva through Trumbull, you're just starting to get some of that heavier rain and gusty winds. For folks that are closer to the state line, Conneaut through Andover, these storms are pushing towards you within the next hour. Farther to the south here, you have a different severe thunderstorm warning. So Geauga County is cut into two different warnings, but it doesn't really matter. The impacts are the same: heavy rain, frequent lightning, and the winds that it could cause 60-mile-an-hour winds, and that continues then into Portage. So Manaway all the way down through Ravenna. Not as heavy of rain in the Ravenna area, and it does pick up in intensity when you get towards Akron. That's a camera shot we have. It doesn't look bad at all. Is this live? Maybe I'm too early or too late. I don't know. It doesn't look bad though. But the radar tells a different story. I've seen a shark. I read that differently. You don't have to run necessarily, but you definitely want to take cover here. The entire viewing area in our western communities, we want you to seek the whole reason that we have the risk for severe storms is, one, of course, that you could have the risk for damage, but we also know that people are out and about. There's so many festivals, especially around America 250 here for America's birthday tomorrow, and a lot of people might not be aware. So that's one of the main reasons that we always do this streaming here. And we have quite a few people, about 1,400 people watching. So we appreciate all of you watching and hopefully are always here to give you the latest info. Let's check the winds. Still very strong winds. Strongest winds right now moving right over Windsor, between Huntsburg and Orwell. That's where you could have maybe over 60-mile-an-hour winds. Most of these are going to be up to about 60, enough to cause damage and enough to cause power outages, unfortunately. And we are getting reports of damage too. Some trees being knocked down, trees on a home. In one scenario, trees blocking the roads. Remember that when you see tree damage, that you do not want to mess with it, because until the power companies come out and it's dead line, it can be really dangerous when you have down power lines. So super strong winds right now moving from Windsor right towards Orwell. And then we also have very strong winds from Kent through Ravenna, all around Kent University here, down through Portage County, moving out of Summit. That's where we have the strongest winds as well. A bigger swath too. That's where you have winds that are probably over 60 miles an hour. So there's a greater risk for damage. There's a greater risk for power outages. And then down to the south, we're really far away from the radar site. So that's one negative that we have here, but you still have some intense rainfall pushing into southern Richland County here. We're sitting at 9:15. I do think that this warning is laid perfectly, and it will clear the warning by about 9:30. The strong winds of about 60 miles per hour. There's clearly tons of rain and the frequent lightning too. Tornado chances. Ford Mustang's wondering that on YouTube. So tornado chances are low, never zero. I'm always keeping an eye on the risk for rotating storms. I haven't been overly impressed, but let's do a little check here. Let's check a couple different things. So a little bit of rotation down to the south, but it's not overly impressive. It's still within the severe thunderstorm warning. But I would say that it's a pretty low threat for tornadoes. We've had some reports of hail. It's more about straight line winds here. And any storm's dangerous with lightning. Thank you, Logan. Do fireworks shows, that's a great question, Earl. Probably. I would assume that in terms of a city manager, a mayor, anything like that, whoever is making these calls for different cities across Northeast Ohio, I'm sure they're always going to play it safe, probably even safer. So then, because it's not as, in terms of the guardians are used to dealing with this, they're used to making these calls and they have these set rules in place. It's probably slightly different for every city, but I would say that they're probably going to do, I know that when I was a lifeguard, for example, every time there was lightning, we would have to clear the pool for 30 minutes, and every time we heard another thunder from lightning, we would reset the clock to 30 minutes. So that was our rule. I'm sure a lot of cities have very similar plans of attack, basically, in terms of handling it. I would love for these storms to just completely get out of here. Sun's down. Sun's been down for about 10 minutes here. The worst of the storms should be over by 10:30. So hopefully we're still able to get those fireworks shows off. They might just be a little bit delayed. I'm sure the bigger concern for a lot of these events is that people are already out. Maybe they went home because there's a line of severe storms that are pushing through until about 10 o'clock or so. Sorry, I just have to take another sip of water. I stay on the stream until the severe thunderstorms clear the Power 5 viewing area. So that is going to be probably until at least 10 o'clock as they're trying to push out farther to the north here. So this part of the storm will be up into northwest Pennsylvania pretty soon here within, honestly, probably even before 9:45. Probably by 10 o'clock, this storm's out of Ashtabula. But we have these storms to worry about that are pushing southeast. So these are then going to try to impact areas that haven't seen any rain yet. So they're energy chasing here. So you have Holmes County, Tuscarawas, Carroll County. Those are all part of our viewing area as well. So it could last even longer. Well, as long as you heed the warnings, Mike, I think you have high chance of survival. But even people, unfortunately, in their cars, in their homes, trees fall on them, and it can be really bad. So I feel like this is being a little sarcastic. If I had to take a guess. But the whole point here is that these are damaging storms that are moving through, and it is your choice to be watching. Not hammered. Definitely not. Let's see. Tornado sirens going off in Norton, Summit County now. So I don't know why it would be going off. Oh no, I messed something up. There we go. Let's check the rotation here. Yeah, no, I'm not concerned about a tornado in Summit County. The winds are no denying, but the worst of the winds are actually now into Portage County from Randolph through Stowe. This area in pink, that's where you have the threat of maybe even over 60-mile-an-hour winds. So the stronger the wind, the more likely it is that you can have damage. And the good news is that I was seeing those areas in pink in a couple of other spots, and right now the worst of the storms is Portage County. That's where you have a severe thunderstorm warning issued, and rightly so, because that's where not only are we talking 260-mile-an-hour winds, but extending beyond that, maybe even 60, 65-mile-per-hour winds. We got a quick downpour in Akron, some wind, and now mild wind and drizzle. Hopefully we get more than this. My lawn could use it. I agree with that. I know a lot of folks are hoping for some rain. It does look pretty dry in the northern half of Summit County. Southern and eastern section of Akron and Summit County, still seeing some of that really heavy rain. But as I mentioned, the worst part of the storms, everyone's basically, this is now turned into a 100% chance for rain. The question now will be the southern extent, but there's no reason, even though the sun is setting. So that's one thing that we have on our side here as these storms continue to push towards Holmes County, Tuscarawas, and Carroll County. So we'll continue to, of course, monitor these severe thunderstorm warnings as we have been. I can't even remember what time we got started here, but it's been probably at least 2 hours that we've been on. And the good news is that the severe threat is way down for points to the west here, but you're still seeing some showers. It's not as heavy, but it's still raining for Lorain, Erie, Huron counties. So that's just not unfortunate. Thank you. So there is no tornado warning. It's just severe thunderstorm warnings. Thankfully, we haven't seen a ton of rotation showing up on the radar. We're always going to keep monitoring it, but this has all been straight line wind damage that we're receiving. I'm in Portage County in Edinburgh, and it is very, very windy. Electric is out, yeah. I'm not surprised. Unfortunately for Portage County right now, you're seeing some of the strongest winds. So the strongest winds that I've seen so far today, Sheffield Lake is one that I remember up in an hour and a half ago, and right now, what we're seeing here. This is why they went ahead and issued the severe thunderstorm warning, because it started to pick up in intensity probably about 20 minutes ago. So there wasn't much happening at 8:47. And then as it moved from Twinsburg through Hudson, Cuyahoga Falls, it really started to ramp up. You're seeing, and what I'm looking for is the difference in the colors, right? So you have the reds, the dark reds are much lighter winds. When it starts to get into this pink color, that's when it's even a stronger wind. Then when we're looking for the risk for tornadoes, what we don't want to see, so if I zoom out the radar here, you see that our radar site is at Hopkins Airport. So when you're moving toward your radar site, it's green. When you're moving away from it, it's red, or in this scenario, pink. Oh no. Picking up some of the winds here in Chardon too. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. That's good. That was old. Phew. So but there hasn't been a lot of rotation showing up at all. It's been all about these stronger winds. And the area of the strongest winds down in Portage County, getting a little bit smaller, but it's still there. From Industry through Randolph, Ravenna, that's where you're seeing over 60-mile-an-hour winds. And the northern, for what it's worth, actually, when I was just zooming forward there on the radar, that you had some really strong winds for Geauga County, and then as they pushed into Ashtabula, they fell off a little bit. So you still have the risk of maybe 50 to 60-mile-an-hour winds for Ashtabula County, but it's coming down. And then in the meantime, crossing over into Trumbull County, you also have some strong winds. Paris getting hit with some of that heavier rain, or the strongest wind gusts. Let's check other spots here. Down to the south, we're pretty far from the radar site, but still have that severe thunderstorm warning until 9:30, so that's only 7 minutes left, and then it's going to try to move into, once again, looks like we've got another little outflow here. Oh no, just kidding, there's not. Just see what this storm's trying to do here. So yeah, a little bit of a strongest section of the storm down here. You're seeing that area in red. Yep, same spot, right there, where it's the strongest part of the storm that the radar is picking up here for Richland, Wayne County. It's such a bummer that the entire line is now severe. No, but the Guardians are, and they were delayed. I'm not sure if they're still delayed, but they got delayed, obviously, because of all the heavy rain that moved through. You are so welcome, Lori. The Cleveland Guardians game. So let me see. I believe that they're still on a rain delay. Let me check, though. Yeah, they're still in a delay. Hi, Rob. Hello. How are you? Oh, thank you. Rob Power's here, everyone. Thank you. Bringing some water. Okay, so let's see. I was checking the Guardians. I wasn't texting anyone. I was checking the Guardians if they were still on a delay. And according to my phone, they are. But other times I've been texting people in my newsroom, and I was even checking in with the Power 5 weather team. They were all chatting about it and the storms here. And so sometimes just getting some reports in other ways. And it's also, my phone helps me when I can look at the National Weather Service chat. So they use, they send their thoughts and storm reports and warnings all through Slack. So I have Slack on my phone, and I could use it on the computer, but honestly, there's so much going on in the computer between the streams and seeing all your guys' discussions, and then looking at my radar and then moving the radar. There's already a lot going on here, so sometimes it's just easier to use my phone. So I apologize, not texting. Lots of power outages being reported, and that was one of the texts that I did get from my digital staff, Mercy. And the last she told me is that statewide it had jumped to 39,000. I do have a graphic that shows our outages. And it is an estimate that this graphic has. Oh, that is a look at Akron right now. Ooh, so in Cuyahoga County alone, 30,000 without power. 6,000 in Lorain, a couple hundred elsewhere. Medina, 1,500. Geauga, 2,000, and we'll likely see these numbers go up rather than down, at least in the next hour or so. Right in the severe area near Shreve, thunder, lightning, and rain, absolutely. That's really what these storms are bringing. There's been a couple reports of hail, not much rotation. It's been more heavy rain, frequent lightning. We can pop on the lightning too. Just get a check. So 600 lightning strikes. Well, let's zoom in a little bit because that's taking into account those storms. It's been hovering right around 400 to 500 lightning strikes since I started this. I was so hopeful that they would weaken as they pushed to the east. They just held together, and we had all of the ingredients for these storms to do so, and they've just been holding together. So I think that honestly, probably for the next hour, we'll have these storms. Well, it depends on where you live, right? So in Ashtabula County, you're probably going to have these storms exiting your neck of the woods here in the next 15, 20 minutes or so. There is a new warning that's going into Pennsylvania. That's until 10:15. So let's track this guy out. We'll go 35 miles an hour. So Pierpont at 9:37, so about 10 minutes. And so it's going to be clearing Ashtabula County by about 9:45. Then for Portage County, about the same, probably about 9:45 for you. We'll check those out. Maybe even a little bit sooner. So yeah, it's all the way to Niles and Warren by 9:39, 9:45. So the worst is pushing through Portage County and exiting as I speak. And then my concern is down to the south here. These storms are moving southeast, pushing through Wayne County, Ashland, Richland, and then I think that they're going to try to continue into Holmes here. So again, rough estimates always, but we have Holmesville at 9:37, Millersburg 9:44, Brewster at 9:46. So within the next 15 minutes here, it's going to try to move through into and then through Holmes County. getting pelted in Mansfield. I believe that 100%. Hi, Harriet in Willoughby. So worst has passed from Willoughby. You got hit really hard. Now it's just some light rain. And the worst of the storms has passed you. So the risk for Massillon, you're in a severe thunderstorm warning right now until 9:45. And the risk for tornadoes is low, not zero. I have not been impressed with rotation. It's been more about the winds. But let's check because we get radar scans every couple of minutes. So I'm going to turn off the lightning. And we'll check our winds here. So the worst of the winds still in Portage County, but it's moved from Randolph into Industry, now pushing from Industry through Lexington, Deerfield, all where you could see those over 60-mile-an-hour winds. And then elsewhere along this warning, and that continues up through northern Portage County and then into Trumbull, that's where you could have wind gusts more like 50 to 60. So this small section from Palmyra to Lexington is where you could see over 60 miles an hour. Same thing with this storm up to the north here in Ashtabula, that the worst of the winds kind of hit the Chardon area and into Geauga County. And as it's continued to move to the east in Ashtabula, weakening a little bit, but it has brought some, still has the indicator of 60-mile-an-hour winds. And then down to the south, right around, just check something real quick. Yeah, the strongest winds right now, into southern Ashland County, right around Perrysville, you're getting some really strong winds. And then Apple Creek. I think somebody was watching from Apple Creek a couple minutes ago, and they mentioned that it was getting pretty nasty and pretty dark clouds. You have some of those strong winds too. All right, I don't love that near Lexington. This little area right here near Lexington. Seeing how these two boxes are, as I was talking about the threat for tornadoes. So see how these two boxes are next to each other, and you have the red and the green? Trying to do something, probably producing hail, but it's definitely something worth watching. We already need you to be in your safe spot in Lexington because you have the severe thunderstorm warning, but there's now just a tiny little bit of rotation showing up. Really the first that we've seen. I appreciate the question, Savannah, because I went looking for rotation here and finding a small little section near Lexington. Yeah, this is the strongest rotation I've seen this evening. So right around Webb Avenue, that's where it's just showing up here on the radar from the green. That's where you have the potential. It's more so strong winds. Once you start to see the reds showing up, it means that it's getting a little bit tighter. But in just that last scan, did you see what I see? It came down. The red went away, so that's good. So it was right over Lexington, and then kind of collapsed on itself. So I'm happy to see that. Because that was most of this evening. I have not been impressed with rotation. Still some super strong winds, but definitely something to keep watching. Let me flip back over to velocity. Yeah, more so I think, no matter what, whether there was maybe a funnel cloud trying to touch down or something, Lexington is still seeing incredibly strong winds as they cross over County Road 11. Same thing with Yale. And in between Atwater and Deerfield, you also have those really strong winds showing up too. And it's easier sometimes when you zoom out, it's almost easier to see the winds and where you have the strongest winds. When you're really close in, it all kind of looks like the same color, but when you pull it out, you're able to see that right basically along the leading edge of all of these storms here. And it now has been extended, the severe thunderstorm warnings, into Trumbull County, as well as Mahoning. It's such a mess. I can't even tell where some of them begin and end. So Trumbull County is until 10:15. And then Wayne County until 10:45. Same thing with Holmes until 10:45. Canton and Stark, 10:45. So that's your warning here. Let's check the latest. Again, not texting. I'm going to check the National Weather Service chat. So already getting reports from Trumbull County of multiple trees and wires down in northern Trumbull County. Winds of 60 miles an hour for all of these storms. And the ones that are pushing through Wayne County, Stark, and Holmes in effect until 10:45, those storms are moving east at 45 miles per hour. You know what, that was a bad track. Let me do it again. So hot off the press, if you're just joining us, we have new warnings being issued here for Holmes County, for the rest of Wayne County, into Stark County too, until 10:45. So I mean, that's the next hour that we're dealing with these storms. And moving to the east at 45 miles per hour. It feels a little long, but because they're moving east instead of southeast, that could be where the length is coming from. So rough, these are always rough trackers here, but it gives you an idea. So Holmesville at 9:45 in about 10 minutes here. Mount Eaton 9:52, East Canton 9:52, Brewster at 9:54. And I would always say shave off like a couple minutes. So for Brewster, more like 9:50 that you're going to get these storms into your neck of the woods. Still seeing the strongest winds from Alliance through Lexington. Thankfully, that little spike of rotation, it did worry me for 1 second, but came down. But in the same breath, quite literally, there is that increased wind right in Deerfield through Lexington. Just got an update though with the radar. Came down. It's not as widespread with those pinks showing up. Kind of breaking apart a little bit, but there's still really strong winds from Alliance through Deerfield. Hi, oh, thank you. I'm gonna just step off the screen for just a second to change my batteries for my microphone and IFB because I've been on for so long. Thank you, Anthony. No problem. So you might hear my mic go out for just a second. All right, just getting readjusted and I'll come back on. Thank you, appreciate it. Okay. Sorry, just trying to get everything back into position here. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's see. Champion, Ohio, yeah. So you are in a severe thunderstorm warning until 9:45. The worst of the winds are kind of just to the south of you, but there is still anywhere from 50 to 60 mile an hour winds pushing through your area right now into Trumbull County. So yeah, sorry, just checking a couple things. Your brother is praying for this. Hinckley, Ohio, Ryland, the storms are past you, the worst of the storms, by far, honestly. So when we zoom out here, so anything from Cleveland to the west here, you're already through the worst of the storms. This is now all basically along and then to the south and east of I-77. So even for areas that are still included in the severe thunderstorm warnings, like in Summit here from Akron to Greene, you're still seeing the impacts of the storms. There's certainly probably still even some heavy rain and stuff, especially for southern Summit County. But the worst of the winds are trying to pull away from you at this time. Now there is still, with that said, there is still some rain here, but notice how it's not as heavy. You're not seeing as much lightning. Let's pop the lightning on. So a couple rogue lightning strikes here. So you're still getting some rain, but the threat for severe weather is over for Lorain, Huron, Cuyahoga County, Medina. It's now all of my focus is Summit down through Stark County, moving through Wayne County and Holmes County as well. You haven't seen anything yet in Holmes, and it's just starting to push into your viewing area. Rylan, I understand if you're scared of storms. That's why I became a meteorologist. I was terrified of storms, so don't worry. The worst of the storms has passed Hinckley. Northern Wayne, so the worst of the storms are actually already through in terms of the strong winds, but you're still seeing some of that heavy rain, again, some of that heavy lightning. The strongest winds in Wayne County right now, favoring more so that eastern side here. So from Seville all the way through Apple Creek, Orville, that's where you have some of those stronger winds, and then pushing into Stark County. So north of Canton through Greene, strong winds showing up for you. We still have the strongest winds moving out of Portage County, and it is creeping into Mahoning now, and then Columbiana County will likely get clipped with some of those strongest storms, strongest wind gusts as well. Really more so in Mahoning though. New warnings being issued here into Pennsylvania for 1045. It's trying to get out of here, but there's still just these winds. I mean, these storms are hanging together here. So now, yeah, 100% across our entire viewing area, you have these storms. What we'll have to monitor next, so we're getting the worst of the storms for Stark County, moving into Holmes County, impacting Wayne at this moment, impacting Portage and pulling away, and exiting Ashtabula. So once we clear these storms in Ashtabula, these storms in Portage, then our focus can basically be all of our southern communities. So areas that haven't even seen a drop of rain yet, that's where you're going to start to see these storms. So right now from Wayne County, Worcester, points to Berlin, you're going to probably see these thunderstorms shortly. Brewster, Canton, Paris, you all are in the severe thunderstorm warning, and you're likely going to have the worst of the storm here in the next 15, 20, 30 minutes. Good, Rylan, I'm happy. Oh, let's check if the Guardians are still on a delay. I'm going to take a sip of water while I do that. Let me just reload it. Still delayed, according to my phone. And the problem is that even though the thunderstorm threat has come down for Cleveland, you see that there is still this swath of rain that's pushing through, impactful in a different way, more of a nuisance than anything when people are trying to have fireworks and such. And that's including Erie, Huron, Lorain County, and now creeping into Cleveland. I was just at Bark in the Park. I should ask them about more of all of the rules that the Guardians have. And same thing with Huntington Bank Field for concerts and things, what all their different rules are. And really when it comes to baseball and the rain, I know that those fields, I mean, they're state of the art. You know, how much rain is too much rain kind of thing. I talk about earthquakes, but not in this scenario. We do cover earthquakes, of course. The scenario that has happened in Venezuela is absolutely horrific. We get not hurricanes, we get earthquakes here. A lot of times we actually have a little fault in our neck of the woods. So we typically see some minor earthquakes up around Lake County. Madison area gets them a lot. They're usually, and thankfully, much smaller on the magnitude and the Richter scale. They're usually about 2.5. So we do talk about them, but in this scenario, we're more focused on the winds and the rain. Starting to rain in Apple Creek. Yes. It's all moving south now. They're moving fast, which is good, faster than previous times throughout the day, but they're impacting now basically the northern half of Stark, all of Wayne County, and that includes the Apple Creek area. You're just starting to see these downpours, the gusty winds, the heavy rain, the frequent lightning, the whole thing. I haven't even looked recently. I haven't seen a ton of reports of hail. Yeah, there's not a ton of hail. The worst of the hail is moving over the state line just south of Pierpont and Ashtabula and into Crawford County. This is more about the wind, and we're going to pop on reports from the National Weather Service. So some of the bad reports that I saw was this one where we're seeing a tree blocking Stone Road, tree across Chestnut Ridge Road in North Ridgeville, several trees down in Portage County, a tree on a house, unfortunately, as reported in Summer Wind Drive, tree across the road in Erie County. So lots of tree damage. And then all of these little whoosh, those are just showing you your wind gusts. The little tree icon, that's where there's usually tree damage. And the power outages, I would imagine, unfortunately just continues to go up. Oh no, no sound coming through on Facebook. I did change my mic, but it seems like people are able to hear me, so hold on. Oh, and in case anyone cares, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are officially married. Let me check my Facebook Live here. Hello, test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me check my Facebook. Okay, I'm hearing it. So on my Facebook Live, let me know if you're able to hear me. Okay, I hear you on Facebook. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you all. I stepped away. Awesome. Thank you all. Okay, that's it. Re-racked here. Let's clear off the reports. So I would say Ashtabula County, the worst of the storms are out before 10 o'clock for you. Portage County, the strongest winds have cleared you. You still have some really heavy rain though and frequent lightning. Now the strongest winds are moving out of our viewing area. So they're moving into Columbiana County and also into Mahoning. So right into the Youngstown area, that's where we're seeing the strongest winds clear. Alliance though, you're in the thick of it right now. Alliance, Ohio, you have the worst of the winds just to the east of you, frequent lightning, and then of course lots of rain too. When we flip over, you're getting pelted with that heavy rain. North Canton continues with the heavy rain, and then Orville down to the south. So pretty soon here, our eastern communities, you're all going to be in the clear. Notice again that there are still some just annoying showers, but not the threat for severe. And then it's basically, I'll be able to focus solely on Holmes County, Canton, and then hopefully, I think that it's probably going to be an issue though for New Philadelphia and into Carroll County as well, probably into the 11 o'clock news. So, you know what, I'm actually going to text my producer to come and chat with me really quick just about the 11 o'clock newscast as we are an hour out. Oh, thank you, Mercy. So I am texting this time, but I'm going to ask my producer to come in here. Okay. Hi, News 5. Hello. I believe that they are still on a rain delay, Sawyer. Yes, the game is still delayed. All right, we already talked about Hinckley. I'm not going to pull your comment up, Rylan, because we talked about it, remember? Hinckley's okay. For Cadiz, so down to the south here. Hi, Megan. My producer's in here real quick. So there's a chance that I could probably be on still all the way until then. So I wasn't sure about. Do you want me to turn my mic off and we could talk? No, okay. How did you just want Trevor?
Don't worry about it.
Okay. Okay.
That's all I want. Do you need anything from us?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Water or anything, snack?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you. So we're just, because we're now an hour out here, and most of us are going to be out of the severe storms, but I don't want to leave out our friends down to the south here, where even if these storms hopefully would continue, they haven't really weakened that much, to be honest, but hopefully they weaken as they continue to push down to the south, but I don't really think that that's going to happen. So shout out to Cadiz down to the south here. Similar story, that just like for Tuscarawas and Carroll County, this line of storms, I mean, it's pretty far away from you still, but it's going to try to hold itself together. So probably more so in like an hour. If you were to get these thunderstorms, that's more so when you're going to have that threat. Canton is getting cooked, yeah. The worst of the storms right now. North Canton, I mean, really heavy rain showing up too. Oh yeah, strong winds right here over Canton. Why you're in the severe thunderstorm warning, right? So that risk of 60-mile-an-hour winds, and we're getting reports of power outages across the area too. Just hit my ankle bone. Real strong, and honestly, the strongest winds that I'm seeing right now are into the Youngstown area, Boardman, Ohio, so all into Mahoning. Great news for Ashtabula, not seeing super strong winds for you. In Portage County, the worst of the storms is over. It's all Canton now. This is my biggest concern, is honestly, and then into Louisville, that's where we're seeing those strongest winds at this time. And these storms are pushing east, but throughout the course of the day, all these storms have kind of had a mind of their own. And when we put it in, let's put it into just a rotation of the last 2 hours. So there is an eastern progression, but at times you have it that it's a little bit more southeasterly. I'm actually going to drag it myself so I can have it the speed I want. So this is what we can blame. Don't blame me. Blame this guy right here. That outflow blew up the line of storms and created the strong severe thunderstorms for all of our southern communities basically. And then they're now slowly pushing, I mean, they're not that slow, but they're gradually pushing out of here. What's up with Akron? So Akron, you're in the clear of the severe storms. The worst of the severe storms is over. You're still getting some heavy rain in southern Summit County and some frequent lightning just to the south, pushing more into Canton, into Stark County. That's where we, just truthfully, the worst right now. I see a lot of, unfortunately, the same questions. There's a little bit, oh, I'm sorry. I pronounced the city wrong. Cadiz. Is that right? Cadiz. I appreciate that. There's a lot of cities that I'll see on the radar, and I've always seen that one, and I was never 100% sure how to pronounce it. More storms tomorrow, yeah. So there's definitely a potential for additional thunderstorms tomorrow. But now that today played out the way that it did, it will be interesting to see how the data reacts to it, because truthfully, the data was handling today very poorly. Some of it nailed it. Some of it basically was like, what storms? And I was so hopeful just because of the holiday that maybe we could squeeze out primarily dry days. I think our official forecast for today was isolated showers and storms. That's not correct, right? It was basically 100% chance for rain. So for tomorrow, honestly, I've been on for so long, I haven't been able to check a lot of the new data coming in, but we can, hold on. So this is the next few hours. This is doing better than it did the last update that I checked of it. All over by, out of our viewing area between 11 and 12. Like, great. Just ruined our evening, but cool. And then it has downpours coming in tomorrow morning. And then I would say that there's probably an additional round of some showers and thunderstorms that tries to flare in the afternoon. So this computer model that I'm looking at is called the HRRR, so it's the High Resolution Rapid Refresh. This one goes out 14 hours and it updates every hour. Then there's another one every 6 hours that goes out 48. That data is loading as I speak, so we'll be able to check it in a couple minutes. That will take us farther into Saturday. So we'll come back and revisit this. Let's check up with the new comments. Oh. We'll appreciate your brother for his work, and unfortunately we have had reports of a lot of power outages here, and always a reminder here that you want to, if you have down power lines, avoid them until you get those crews out there that can make sure that the lines are dead, because it can be, the danger doesn't necessarily end once the storms pass, especially when you have tree damage and power lines being involved. There's a lot of spam today. We've already talked about the Guardians game. I'm not 100% sure, but we can check again. It's still showing up as delayed. Millersburg for Holmes County. So, latest update here. You are no longer under severe thunderstorm warning. Let me see if it might just be in between. They're certainly still showing up here just to the north of Millersburg, more so kind of headed towards Berlin. That's where we're seeing some of those stronger winds. Certainly wind gusts of anywhere, you could still have those 30 to 40 mile an hour winds, but certainly some heavier rain. It's trying to fall apart, which is encouraging. Let me look back at just the last 30 minutes. Yeah, your warning was cut because it's all moving east. It's all becoming Canton's problem. So that's good news for Holmes that you're still getting. There's not even really much lightning being detected. So that's really good news for Holmes County, that you're getting some beneficial rain, hopefully. Then Wayne County, you were out of the severe threat too. So this bodes well, actually, for Cadiz, for Tuscarawas County, that you might get some rain, but in terms of getting the severe storms, not as likely. So the worst of them pushing through Stark County. And honestly, it's really just Stark County for our viewing area. That's good news. We'll still have to watch this line here. But for Holmes, you're not seeing nearly as strong of winds as just to the north of you. Strongest winds is in Trumbull or Mahoning County. And then Canton, let's just roll it back 30 minutes. Yeah, it's all basically this entire watch box here that got a trim. It originally included Holmes County. I could see the argument though. There's still some strong winds in Holmes County, especially the northern section of Holmes. From Berlin up to about Maysville, Benton, you're all seeing some of those stronger winds. No hail showing up though. Yeah, there's still some strong winds. What are you seeing there? What are you experiencing? Raining like crazy in Worcester. Absolutely, and thankfully, even though it's still raining in Wayne County and Worcester, severe thunderstorm warnings are over. Still have a couple of lightning strikes, so you want to take it easy out there. Don't rush outside, but there's still some of these strong winds. I don't know, maybe they're just between issuing warnings. Oh, my goodness. Hold on. My mouse did something weird. Let's just hit the home button. Okay. And the other thing about sometimes looking at just the winds here, you can clearly see in areas that the storms have already pushed through, that the threat is over. That includes most of Ashtabula County, Geauga, Lake, Cuyahoga, Lorraine, points to the west. There might still be some rain and even some lightning showing up, and some of that heavier rain, as you noted, in Wayne County and Worcester, but the threat for severe weather has come down. And some of the strongest winds we have at this moment is in southern Stark County, northern Tuscarawas County, right around Beach City here. And we still have some strong wind gusts too around Holmes County. Millersburg, really just to the south of Millersburg is where there's the strongest winds. Township Road 305. Oh, thank you for whoever was asking about the Guardians game. We're coming back at 10:15. Thank you, Emery. No rain west of Dalton, but the winds are still strong. I could see that, yeah. Let's flip back to reflectivity. So this is a plain old radar. The radar has been so interesting, though, throughout the course of today. It's all just energy seeking. So it's just looking for where is it untouched. Even though you're not included in the severe thunderstorm warning for our friends in Holmes County, I would still just let these storms pass. They're not the most organized, but there's still some heavy rain coming up. There's still some gusty winds there. Not as strong as some other parts of the storms, like in Canton, just getting rocked right now. Canton to North Canton all getting hit pretty hard. Real heavy rain. I haven't looked at rain rates in a little bit, but that's where you could have anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of rain per hour. Rainfall totals for some locations. I mean, in Barberton, Wayne County, so portions of Summit, over 1 to 2 inches of rain fell. Not everyone, though, right? There were some sections of our viewing area that was like, okay, it barely rained. Lots of lightning and thunder in Canton near Hartville. And, sorry, let me clear this. Majority of the lightning, thankfully, is trying to weaken. Even in that severe thunderstorm warning for Canton, there's still some lightning out toward Medina, Worcester. So it can be, even though the threat for severe weather is much lower, it's still impactful in another sense that you're not able to get the fireworks going off right now in southern Medina County, much of Wayne County, but the threat for damage is much lower. Thank you, Angel. Yeah, near Wadsworth, right in that same section of where we have the severe thunderstorm warnings. And again, this warning's until 10:45. I think it's going to clear that box, though, and it's going to move into Columbiana well before 10:45. I feel pretty confident about that. Paris at 10:12. I mean, it's already raining there. That's just like the strongest winds. Let me just do the winds. I'm actually encouraged. This looks better than it did a couple minutes ago. Absolutely. Oh, that's great news. I mean, it's been about an hour since the sunset, so maybe that's allowing some of these winds to decrease a smidge. And even though, again, you're not included in the severe thunderstorm warnings, we do have some stronger winds from New Philly and the northern half of Tuscarawas County moving out into eastern Holmes County. So trying to clear there. It's gradually improving. It's just a bummer that it had to happen on the holiday. Well, I know it's not really the holiday, but the start of the holiday as we move into 4th of July tomorrow. Lots of rain and lightning in Seville. So that's kind of just what I was talking about here, that even though you're not included in the severe thunderstorm warning, these are still packing a punch with this heavy rain, tons of lightning from Lodi through Seville. I will always think of Seville because of a tornado warning. It was like a mini tornado outbreak, and back in October of 2021. And I believe that there was a tornado that touched down in Seville or near it. No, it's not pre-recorded. This is all live. Hi. Not much of a storm in Canton. It's trying to weaken a little bit as it pushes through Stark County, which is good news. Flipping back over to when we look at our, this is called shear rate, We have it labeled as rotation detector, which is, it's very helpful when we are tracking tornadoes, which today there was only one little time near Lexington that the radar got me a little cautious. It was very brief that I saw it, but in generally speaking, we can also use this property or this tool in our radar toolbox here at News 5 to just show where there are some stronger winds too. So if we zoom it back just 10 minutes ago, if you notice that there are these brighter greens showing up, and that's on the moderate level of the winds. It's on the edge of moderate, creeping towards strong. So we had all of that showing up just 10 minutes ago in Stark County. And now it's really moving more towards New Philadelphia. One thing I will note of why maybe we're not seeing the warnings being issued for Tuscarawas and into Carroll County yet, this is a different office. So Stark County is coming from the National Weather Service, and Tuscarawas County is coming from Pittsburgh. Let me just check the Pittsburgh chat and see if they've said anything. So they have different warnings that they're issuing. They're issuing all of these out here. Well, probably not. That's probably not their entire viewing area, but up here, Lawrence, PA. Sorry, they did issue that one near Puxatawney. We'll see if they issue, because it does look like it's showing up as some fairly strong winds for northern Tuscarawas County. I could see the argument here. And bottom line, maybe if you live in Tuscarawas County, just be aware of the fact that you have the threat for some stronger winds here and some heavy rain. Not a ton of lightning, but still, there's enough lightning strikes showing up here. So I agree with you. In terms of the widespread nature of these storms, absolutely. It was supposed to be a fairly isolated threat. There was one computer model that was hinting that this is what could happen. And the last week or so, the last 10 days, when we would have the threat for maybe a shower or thunderstorm, it never really came to fruition. Well, that changed today, clearly. So it was a little bit of a bust of a forecast here, because I believe that our official forecast for News 5 was like an isolated shower storm here and there. I mean, it ended up being basically 100% chance for rain, and almost the entire thing getting warned. Severe storms from west to east, north to south. So unfortunately, it's not the best case scenario, but we did talk about the threat that if we were to see any thunderstorms, although this coverage is way higher than I thought it would be, any storm, we knew that if we did start to get storms, they could be on the strong to severe side, because we had so much energy to work with in our atmosphere from just the heat and humidity alone, enough wind energy to produce the damaging winds down at the surface. So when we see tornado warnings, drove through Trumbull County and felt very scary. So Caitlin, I love your profile picture too of the balloons. So the tornado threat is very low. There was only one period of time in Lexington, so more so like in Portage County, that I got a little nervous about some rotation showing up. But overall, there have not been any tornado warnings, but that's not to negate that these aren't incredibly strong and impactful storms. Torrential downpours, so if you're in the car with the sun already set, it can be truly blinding when it's raining that hard. So like in Youngstown right now, just getting annihilated with rain for the moment. And then all of that frequent lightning too, and on top of it, strong winds. While they're not rotating winds like this, they're straight out, and that's where we still have had damage reports of trees getting knocked down, and unfortunately thousands without power, which is just a bummer. Getting a trim for this severe thunderstorm warning. And then the worst of the storms are out of our viewing area. So I actually might have a second before the 11 o'clock news. And I do invite you, even if I know that there's some people who have not been able to watch News 5 because of a dispute between ABC and I think it's DirecTV, there's always ways that you can watch us, including downloading our app. So if you download the app, that's also when you'll get notifications. So Mercy's back in the newsroom. she's listening to me kind of manning this Facebook Live and YouTube Live with me. And then in the meantime, also updating articles for our webpage and including pushing alerts. So saying that there's over 40,000 people without power, she posted that one, and the fact that we have severe thunderstorm warnings. Long story short, you'll get those weather alerts getting pushed to you, but at the same time, you can also watch us live when we do tornado warnings and with our newscast. So yeah, I think probably in a couple of minutes here, I'll be able to end the Facebook Live because it looks like the worst of the threat of storms is coming down. I'm still concerned about Tuscarawas County and Carroll County. I do think that you'll still get some of these very strong winds pushing through in the next half hour. They're already starting to creep in to northern Tuscarawas County and into northern Carroll County, and then they should clear from about, I would say from about now until 10:30 would probably be the worst of those storms. Let's flip over and check. Oh, the newest and only certified NOAA storm spotter in Columbiana County. I live in Salem and it's very windy right now. Trees are bending and lightning is very severe. Thank you. Yeah, so in Columbiana County here, you have a severe thunderstorm warning, and it's also continuing then up into Mahoning, and now the severe thunderstorm warnings continue into PA too. And then just pesky showers elsewhere. When you look from Norwalk through Cuyahoga, Lake, Lorraine, it's raining, more of a nuisance. It's not super strong winds or anything, but there's not even really any lightning, but more, again, just annoying. Sawyer, the rain delay is ending at 10:15, someone told me. Thank you, Brad. Love to hear that. The storm of 1969 on America's birthday. I'm not super familiar. I'll have to look that one up. Where exactly is Stone Creek? I'm sorry, I'm not 100% familiar where that's at. Still want to keep an eye just on the storms down to the south. Okay, so this is where, when you get so far from the radar site, so I actually just flipped over to the Pittsburgh radar, and watch the difference. So this is the Pittsburgh radar for Tuscarawas County, and here's the Cleveland. So it's basically picking up like nonsense because it's so far away, and that's part of the reason why Tuscarawas County is included in the Pittsburgh National Weather Service. So you can see that clear difference, that it's just not as strong. I should have thought of that sooner. There's still certainly some rain, some lightning, maybe some winds of 40, 50 miles per hour that are going to push through Tuscarawas and Carroll County. But the worst of the storms are exiting the Power 5 viewing area into Trumbull County and now continuing into Pennsylvania. Tons of lightning showing up as well. And that heavy rain threat for sure is still an issue. There's this like rogue severe thunderstorm warning in Licking County. Coshocton, you're getting a couple of these thunderstorms too. But I think I feel safe enough at this moment to, I'll let the worst of the winds clear Stark County. So ask any other questions that you may have. I can also show you the 7-day forecast really quick. But I would love for you guys to join me at News 5 at 11 too. So big thing here, we have a heat advisory for tomorrow. Still have the chance for some additional thunderstorms for tomorrow as well that could be on the strong to severe side. Then we have a risk for more storms on Sunday. Temperatures will start to drop though as we head into next week, getting more like into the 80s. Let's check and see. So tomorrow, here's the risk for severe weather. Compare it to today, which was spot on. Honestly, basically our entire viewing area got severe weather, and it did. So tomorrow, that risk pulls farther down to the south and east. And then it drops even more south and east for Sunday. But there is still that chance for showers and thunderstorms. So let's see if the new data is in. The last time I did one of these, someone commented, I saw it later, that the mouse clicking was like unintentional ASMR, which made me laugh. Okay, so it's doing okay, right? Initializing decent enough. It's got the general idea of what we dealt with this evening. And then those storms fading. And then it looks like we could have some downpours, but pretty isolated into Saturday. And then here they start to blow up here. So our southern and eastern communities, once we get into the afternoon and evening tomorrow, that's where you're favoring that risk for showers and thunderstorms. It's coming into agreement now finally. And then Sunday, just more storms. But at that point, you know, the holiday's over, but I know a lot of people take off time in the summer, so there is still that chance for some hit and miss showers and storms on Sunday. I'm going to check one more computer model before I wrap up the Facebook Live, because I think this one, earlier today it was doing better. I think it was the 12Z. Sorry, am I talking out loud or thinking out loud? Yeah, this was doing way better. So it had some of those downpours. I think that's a little overdone. And then another chance as we moved into the evening. So bottom line, just like today, unfortunately, where we had the risk, if for any storm that was going to develop, there was the threat for them to be severe. Clearly that happened, and at a much greater scale in terms of coverage than, and I will always call myself out when I'm wrong, and this was kind of a bust of a forecast. We talked about the threat for some storms, but I thought they would be pretty few and far between. We had a full line of severe storms. Thankfully, they're moving out of Northeast Ohio, still impacting areas though, like in Lorraine, I think I need to stop because I'm losing my mind, like in Mahoning County, and then now moving into Pennsylvania. Bennett, where are you at that you felt that the winds were that strong? I'm sorry, I missed where you said. Oh, you were at Berea Lake Live, and then the winds were crazy, tents were falling. Oh my gosh. Oh, and apparently a chair flew into a lady. That's terrible. Wow. So yeah, that's really, this comment is always important to keep in mind, that even if it's not tornadoes, straight line winds that are exceeding 60 miles an hour can still cause a ton of damage and wreak havoc on an event, and especially anything outside. Just resumed at 10:15. Let's go, guards. Drove around Canton while the wind was piercing. And thankfully, the worst of those winds pulling out of Stark County at this time. Moving into Carroll County and Tuscarawas County I'm going to keep an eye on this, but I am going to wrap up this Facebook Live. I'm still watching these. We haven't seen a ton of rotation or anything. We don't have any flooding concerns at this time. It's obviously been an impactful night with these storms, and I do hope you join me in about 45 minutes on News 5 at 11. That's when I'll have the latest updates, and these are all going to be shifted farther to the east and farther to the southeast. I'm going to go drink some water, just get myself together, check the latest data so I can have the best forecast for the 4th of July, and then I'll see you hopefully at 11 p.m. Thank you so much for joining me.